council's here so we can get started. Ralph, do you want to lead off?
Sure. We scheduled time in this work session to go over a draft of an ordinance. It's considered a short-term rental ordinance. And I'd like to try to maybe give you a very light overview. Hopefully you've had a chance to read it. Ideally, we'd like to go through some steps with this, have you review it, get your questions lined up. If I can answer them, I will. If I can't answer them, which we want to do this regardless, have the draft reviewed by our borough solicitor. There's some things in here that may not fly legally, so we have to check that with the borough solicitor. And I can touch on some of the question areas, but anyway, before it's all said and done, we need a legal review of the draft. And then once we get those answers back and we incorporate them, we talk about it, we can put it back on the agenda for council's consideration, advertise it, and then eventually adopt it. So again, this started about 2 years ago, maybe longer. And I see Nancy Knoll is on our call. She, if you recall, came to a council member and some other B&B owners and voiced concerns about an uneven playing field regarding short-term rentals, or the nickname is Airbnbs, whatever you want to call them. It's primarily defined, in the municipal world as a stay less than 30 days, where the owner is not there, generally speaking. So it's unlike a B&B. It's not a B&B. So this speaks to basically a mini hotel being operated in a residential area. So, it's no different than if I owned a Motel 6 or whatever. It's going to operate as a business. Somebody could buy a house in a residential neighborhood and operate that with say no ownership staying there, or the people who own it, off the property, so to speak. So the planning commission took about a year and a half or so. Of course, Shannon left our employment and I was filling in, so it went rather slow, but nevertheless, we worked on this draft ordinance for quite some time. And here recently, the planning commission recommended it go to borough council for your consideration. So again, it's a short-term rental ordinance. In the scheme of things, short-term stays are less than 30 days. So it's not a rental property where, somebody buys a property and rents it out and the tenant's there for a year or 2 years or 10 years. It's not that. It's not a B&B where the owner stays in the house, makes breakfast and those kinds of things. It's not that either. It's purely a mini hotel currently in a residential neighborhood. So let me just quickly, I made some highlights, so I'm going to try to go over this fairly quick. It's income producing property. So it's meant to, you stay there, you pay the owner, whether it's through a online service or what have you. You're renting the facility, the place you're staying in, you're renting it for a short-term stay. What we did in the draft, some of the concerns, and this is happening in Bellefonte, some of the concerns were multiple unrelated people could show up at a house, and we have no idea what the house occupancy is. It's just something we would not keep track of, but you could have 30 or 40 people, I'm going to use the term partiers, staying at a weekend at a place that has a swimming pool, and then leave whatever at the end of the weekend. And so the concern was from the planning commission, we need to control the number of people so that it's not a burden to the neighbors. And that's really the whole theme, is there is a burden today to the neighbors in the residential areas. And the Planning Commission went through a process and decided, no, we don't want that. We don't want the burden on the neighbors that live here day in and day out. So what I'm getting at is in the definition section, the maximum unrelated people staying is 5. And it talks about, that number a couple times in the draft. It talks about nuisance properties in the definition. There's a 5-point scale. And there are incidences or things that can happen that get you your 5 points immediately, and the place is closed immediately. So it's a rather restrictive scale, but again, the Planning Commission does not want these facilities operating in residential areas. The thing that is in here that's definitely needs a legal review is that there are some current rental housing permit holders, and when those permits renew, once this is approved, once those permits renew, they, as the owners, would have to comply with this ordinance. So, for example, the property owners that had the fire escapes or did not have any fire escape above the 2nd floor had to comply. That was an ordinance the borough adopted. So we think this type of thinking and action has been done in the past, but we want to get the legal opinion to make sure we're on the right track. But to give you an example, if you're holding a permit today and the council adopts this, when that permit renews, the facility that is not owner occupied must become owner occupied in order to get the permit renewed. And then owner occupied means you're staying there as the owner at least 9 months out of the year. And there's other proof of your residency that's required. I already talked about the typical length or the typical definition. It's a stay less than 30 days. The gist of this ordinance, basically, once it's adopted by council, says that these Airbnb, the short-term rentals, are not permitted in any of the residential districts. So if someone were to come in after this is adopted and apply for a new permit, they would be denied that permit if they are in a residential district. What it does allow is these short-term stays, mini hotels, to be located in the commercial districts, which is downtown, the waterfront district, which is very similar to the downtown district, but along Spring Creek, and the highway commercial, which is out near the high school, primarily on the north side of Bishop Street and Zion Road, Northwest Savings, the Armory property. It's all highway commercial. So that's where they would be located, and we could explain that's where they can be placed, with no problem once they get all the permits. So the Planning Commission, in the copy I sent out, we have the word highway commercial highlighted. We added that. It was recommended that we add that into the draft. But I'm giving you the parameters. Existing Airbnb type of units, the permit can continue until the renewal date. Once the renewal date comes, they have to comply with this ordinance, just like somebody that owned a rental property and had to put in the fire escape or a sprinkler system.
Ralph, just real quick, this does not include individuals that have been going under the radar and haven't gone through codes enforcement and gotten a rental permit at this point. Is that correct?
Well, I want to clarify, what we try to stress here is the people who may be out there on the internet or whatever that never got a permit, they're not grandfathered. They don't get any special treatment because they got away with something for a year or 2 years, whatever, what have you. Basically, we have permits today of properties that are working as a mini hotel, operating that way. So we're talking about somebody who does not have any kind of permit. They're not grandfathered. They're not permitted to continue. If we find them, if they're in a residential district, there's no option other than closing the business. If they're in a commercial district, their option is to get a permit and abide by all the rules that we have adopted. So the options would be limited, to answer your question, Joanne. Sure. Let me take a look down here. Any more? That's pretty much the gist of the ordinance. I just highlighted again the violation scale. That's for the existing units, properties that are out there. There's a 5-point violation scale, and if rolling in a 12-month period, if you get up to 5 points or all 5 points, it's in some cases it's immediate revocation of your permit. So to give you some insight, I would say a number of months, the Planning Commission was somewhat on the fence as to whether to allow these in the residential districts and so on. And then, recently, within the last few months, there was a couple articles where these exact cases, where a township was sued by a owner, and it turned out that, the township had much more power or authority once it went through the courts. So that article really helped clarify how much authority a municipality has. So we there was 2 articles very similar, both written about these Airbnb short-term rentals, basically said, include certain definitions, the 30-day or less stay, the 5 unrelated people, what a housing unit's considered. We have those definitions in here. So as time went on in the Planning Commission, it seemed to be more clear and more evident that these mini hotels should not operate in the residential districts. So that's, again, in a nutshell, what the draft says. I'm happy to try to answer questions or take questions. And then, like I said, ultimately, I want to get our solicitor to look at the draft.
So comments from anyone? Yes, Randy.
Yeah, I just want to confirm that the enforcement of this is then done through Center Region Code. Is that correct?
Well,
or are there 2 entities, or police, nuisance, or all 3 involved?
The way it's written, that there's a couple ways I would answer that. Certainly our zoning office signs off. So, we may get the call and our zoning officer may start some of the work to see if the place is permitted or not. I don't think we've determined whether the permit will be handled under Center Region or not. All the other, of course, the rental property permits are, and I believe the B&B permits are, so it is probably likely that the inspections would be done.
That's what I understood from attending the Planning Commission, is they were expecting codes enforcement to do that part of it. The things about the 5 points, though, that could be involving the nuisance, because some of them are nuisance types of things. Others are actually police related. Like I think a 5-pointer is having an assault happen on the property. That's an automatic 5-point.
Yeah, so it's a combination, Randy. Like we've got to have a good communication network. That the police have an incident, our zoning and our code inspectors know about the problem so that we can adequately and properly keep track of the violation numbers and all of that.
I'm a little concerned as far as our police force. I know their manpower is you know, stretching things a bit with different incidents going on, and then even for our nuisance officer, I'm just not quite sure in a timing sense how things would be handled and when it might need to be handled. You know, if the officers are out and they're busy with other emergencies or whatever's going on, they're not going to break away from that to go to this nuisance problem or whatever the issue may be at this Aaron B.
Well, let me try to give you some scenarios. We had a resident sitting in on a lot of the planning commission meetings. I know I did invite them, but it was late in the game. I'll admit that. But my point is, if our resident calls the police, they're going to respond accordingly. You know, they're going to prioritize. It's an emergency. They're going to respond right away. If it's, you know, some kind of a nuisance thing, a loud party noise, whatever, it may not be the highest priority, but they're going to respond. All I'm saying is we just want to make sure we have some way of capturing that. You know, we can work internally through our zoning office and the code office to try to capture that information. But so I think this is actually better than what it is now. These parties and these things are happening right now. You just don't know about it. And this is a tool in the toolbox to control you know, make things maybe peaceful and enjoyable in the residential districts instead of one house that has parties every weekend, which is what was happening and what is happening.
Yeah, I don't have an issue so much with what I'm seeing in the ordinance. It's the enforcement of it at this point. And knowing what that enforcement's going to be. I think we need to look at that and answer that question. I don't want to debate it tonight, but I think it's something worth looking at.
It's a good point. You know, we can clarify who's going to do what. It's a brand new ordinance, but I would say it's not unlike, you know, our B&B ordinance or our housing property ordinance, or rental property ordinance. We have enforcement issues on all those, and you know, we work it out. We have worked it out for many years.
I mean, I guess I look at it as we're saying if these misdemeanors occur at these properties, then points are going to be assessed to those business owners, the people that own these properties. It's not changing the amount of work. It's just classifying whether those events are occurring at these rental properties, these short-term rental properties. So the events occur, it's just classifying them appropriately and then finding the property owners if the events occur in excess.
That's correct. And then on top of that, just, you know, we're clearly zoning them out. The new ones would not be permitted in the residential districts. So
yeah, I'm in favor of it. I think if we go and we get the opinion from the solicitor and tell him, or, you know, ask whether or not it's appropriate, and then we can vote on it.
Mike, you had your hand up?
Yeah, just to Randy's point about the enforcement. Right now, the police are understaffed, but I don't expect that to be a forever situation. And I don't think we should hold up an ordinance just because it's of a temporary condition.
So, anyone else?
I just had a question.
Yes, Ann.
I'm sorry. Is this pretty much uniform throughout the county?
well, it's uniform in that, well, I should say a lot of the municipalities either have or are working on short-term rental ordinances. Ours does have a clause in there, the number of times that a property can be rented per year. You know, I've seen variations in that, like some,
Okay.
ours is rather tight on the number
Gotcha.
of, yeah, the number of stays and the maximum number of times you can rent out a property. So of course, the closer you go to State College, if you think about the football games, that's what started a lot of this. But however, it's not the only thing, not the only reason people come into this area. And even during the COVID months, you know, the last year, there's houses in the borough here rented out almost every weekend with no ownership there, no one present other than the people who are renting the place. So it's, you know, it didn't stop, it didn't slow down during COVID, and so on and so on. So, but I will say there was definitely what raised everybody's eyebrow, as in municipal managers and councils and so on, was people coming to the Penn State football game, especially a big game where they couldn't afford a hotel in the State College area. So they started renting these homes, you know, for big dollars. And then there was some safety issues, you know, does a home have smoke detectors and so on? If there's a fire, do people know how to get out? All those issues come into play.
Right. Thank you.
Mhm.
Melissa, did I see your hand up?
Yeah, I'm sorry. My audio cut out about halfway through the introduction. Does this mean that Airbnbs are essentially only allowed in the waterfront highway and central business district?
Yes, an Airbnb per se, they would only be allowed unless they have an existing permit in the commercial districts, the waterfront, the central business, the highway. Now, to clarify, you know, your B&B, which is owner occupied, those are permitted in the residential districts, you know, now and in the future. So there's no change to B&Bs, but strictly.
No, go on, I'm sorry.
Well, a strict Airbnb would be zoned out of the residential districts.
I was looking at Airbnb while you were speaking, and it seems like the majority of them are not in that district. And one, I don't think it's fair to our residents who operate Airbnbs that some residents can and some residents can't. And two, I would worry that it would push Airbnbs to a district that doesn't have the parking to sustain it.
So you're in favor of letting them just go as they are and no owner occupancy, and let them have parties whenever they want?
As someone who uses Airbnbs and doesn't party, I don't have a problem with it.
Let me and disrupt neighbors without any penalty.
I don't have that experience, Mike. I don't party. I just go and stay places.
No, I'm not saying
so I don't know. I don't know what other people do, but I'm saying like the places that we're allowing them would be in places that are congested.
They can be. I mean, you know, there's a waterfront district, central business is congested, but there's actually a lot of older properties that were originally houses that may be a law office or whatever. It could be some adaptive reuses of some of these properties that are kind of lingering, so to speak. But they're really, in essence, a mini hotel. And the planning commission is and it's up to council, you know, by majority, what you do with this. But they're recommending to zone them out of the residential districts. What I would recommend is get a legal opinion on the validity of how this is worded, and then have a public hearing, to get input from your residents before you decide, and they can tell you whether they like the idea or don't like the idea, or I think you'd find it as an eye opener to some of the activity that's happening in the borough that you may not be aware of.
And I add another thing into the whole mix, and that's a concern about B&Bs who own properties that are smack dab adjacent to their bed and breakfast. I know of at least one here in the borough where they monitor and moderate the second house that's next to them. And one of the questions I have is, are they going to be denied based on the way this statement, it says short-term rentals of a dwelling or portion there is not permitted in any residential district of the borough of Bellefonte. Would that mean that they could not be able to continue their bed and breakfast in that second building? I think we may need, going to the next step, we may need to revise the bed and breakfast ordinance to say that if the two properties are adjacent to each other, then that considers that second property as part of the B&B, and it doesn't exclude them from here, because that takes care of all the issues that you've been talking about earlier.
I agree with you, Jillian, that would be the remedy. I think there is need for a remedy there.
Where do we go from here?
Well, as I said, I can bring this up under new business or under planning, zoning, and new community affairs, and ask you to consider voting to allow this borough solicitor to review it, get those comments back. I get them to you to look at and consider, and we take it one step at a time to see if, it checks out from the solicitor's view and so on. Then we eventually go to advertising and so on, and public hearing too.
Sounds like a plan.
So just out of curiosity, when that goes to the solicitor, could we also ask him to look at that issue about the bed and breakfasts so we can get all done at once? We don't have to go back over and over again.
We can. I think that's more or less a zoning amendment, to our language. So I don't see anything controversial in that, other than crafting the language and saying that this would take care of it. So
Okay.
I can mention it to him when we're there, but I have an idea he would say, put something on paper and work on it.
Okay. So why don't we do that under zoning and planning?
Okay,
Since that's where it came out of.
sounds good.
Ralph, I just want to clarify that, and just to clear Mike, that I was not proposing that we delay this. I was just merely requesting that, looking at it quickly, I didn't get a chance to really go through the whole thing yet. And I understand that your direction was for us to do that while this is being reviewed through legal.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that I see missing is calling out the enforcement, because I think all three entities may in one way or another be involved with these. And that's, if they're not, then they're not, but I still think it should be looked at. That was my point. I wasn't trying to hold anything up on it.
No, it's an excellent point, Randy. I made some notes of that. We will check, and as we gather more information and all that, we'll get some answers. So the next time we discuss this, we can explain how it would work. There's somebody trying to do that.
Okay. Well, we have 1 minute. Is there anything else on this?
Joanne, can I just please say thank you to everyone for your hard work and let you know how much you are all appreciated. Thank you.
That was Nancy Perkins.
No.
No, Nancy.
Nancy, no.
Nancy,
Thank
no.
you.
Okay.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Okay. So my clock says it's now 7:30. So that means we need to start the regular meeting. So I'm calling the Bellefonte Borough Council meeting of April 5th To order, prior to this meeting, we held an executive session regarding real estate and spent the last half hour talking about a short-term rental ordinance that we will be discussing a little bit further during the regular session. I would like to have a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge
Allegiance
allegiance
to the flag
To the flag
Of the
of the
United
United
States of
States
of America,
America and to the
and to the
republic
republic
for which
which
it
it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Okay. Mr. Johnson,
Present.
Mr. Prendergast,
I'm present.
Ms. Tosti Vasey,
I'm here.
Ms. Walker,
I'm here.
Mr. Brackbill,
Present.
Ms. Clayton,
Here.
Mr. Eaton,
Here,
Ms. Hombowski,
Present.
and I think I saw Mayor Wilson join.
Yeah, I'm here.
You
Oh,
made it back
Sullivan's
home.
down there in the corner.
Welcome back.
I think he's in Iowa.
Iowa, Dakota.
First item on the agenda is approval of minutes. Do I have a motion and a second?
I'll make the motion. Brackbill.
I'll second it.
I'll second.
Right, Bill, that was Walker. Any changes? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? So moved. There are no items on the consent agenda as far as I know. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Next item then is oral, and Deb Clayton has something she wants to talk about.
Yes, I just want to remind everybody that April 4th through 10th is National Library Week. So get out and support your local libraries. They are open to one degree or another, either to visit in person or to pick up things in the lobby. So get out and support them.
Thank you. Is there any other oral comments? Okay, seeing none, we will go on to the candidate presentations. And I talked to Ralph earlier this evening, and what we're going to do is go in alphabetical order for each of the 4 candidates to give their presentations. Don will be timing for the 3 minutes. And then after that, we'll be taking nominations to fill the South Ward Council seat vacancy.
Hey, Joanne, excuse me. There are only 3 candidates. We had 1 candidate today withdraw from consideration.
So that would be Susan Hoover withdrew?
That's correct.
Okay, I'll cross her name off. Okay, so we'll have 3 candidates instead. Okay, go ahead.
Hey, just a question, Joanne. Are council okay with questions, to do questions, or are we just doing the presentation and then a vote?
I think what we can do is let each of them have the time to do their statements, and then we can question, and then we can do the nominations. How's that work?
All right, thank you.
Okay. So Mary Abbott, you're up first.
Hi, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Mary Abbott. My husband and I own a business here in Bellefonte. We've lived here for 15 years now. We own Jabibo Studios, which is located in the building that used to be Catholic Charities, and before that, Dersham Sporting Goods. We have a small store, and we also sell wholesale. We make earrings that we sell across the country to state parks and national parks and science museums. We employ a number of people, and we had kids grow up here in Bellefonte, go through the school district. I feel like I have my finger in a lot of in a lot of pots here in Bellefonte. You know, I own a historic home. I own a business. I'm an employer. I came out of education. My bachelor's is in music education. So I've taught. I worked at the Career Link for a number of years. So I've worked with job seekers here in our community. And so I'm excited to have the opportunity to work on, you know, making Bellefonte, you know, it's changed so much in the 15 years that we've been here, and just so much for the better. It just seems to be, you know, more and more desirable, and it's great to see that. It's great to see that it's not, you know, State College's, you know, ugly cousin or whatever anymore, that it's really a place that people want to be. And so I'm really excited to have the opportunity to work with the community to make it continue to grow, and but still to maintain the great character that it has. You know, just such a great town to walk around, to be a part of. And so I cut a whole bunch of stuff to try to fit it into 3 minutes, and I think I maybe cut too much, but that's me. So it's nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Our second candidate is Barbara Dan.
Let me unmute. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. My name's Barbara Dan. I've been a resident of Bellefonte all my life. I'm the 4th generation in my family to live in Bellefonte. My husband, my sons, my grandson, and I have definitely benefited from all the opportunities that come with living in a safe, clean, and caring small town. I've watched the many exciting projects that have started and completed in our town. I love seeing all the people that are walking around Talleyrand Park, the waterfront property, and Governor's Park. Some of the skills that I bring to council include my extensive experience in all facets of small business operations with 21 years as an owner operator. I launched Alley Cat Quilt Works, my business, in 2000 and moved to a storefront location in downtown Bellefonte in 2010. My knowledge and experience in the logistical requirements related to operating a business have resulted in 21 years of growth and success. I have superb written and verbal communication skills acquired through years of public speaking and teaching. I have a wide range of experience in operational budgets, product development, business contracts, and also customer relations. I have the ability to share ideas and thoughts in a concise and clear manner, and I foster productive relationships by listening, asking for feedback, and being responsive to others' needs. A couple of the committees and organizations that I've served on over the years have been St. John's School Council. That was for 6 years, and 3 years as the council president. We participated in the Fresh Air Fund as a host family for 8 years, and I was the co-chairperson in our community for 1. I served on the board of directors at the Sight Loss Support Group in State College. And I'm a founding and current member of the Business Owners Mastermind Bellefonte, also known as BOM, which was founded in 2016. We're a group of business owners that meet every Monday morning. We share ideas and support each other as our businesses grow and change. I've always believed public service to be an honorable and valuable endeavor, and have often thought about how I could contribute. Like many people, there was always something standing in the way, whether it was career, family, taking care of a home, etc. Many things kept me from getting involved. I reached a point in my life where I feel that I need to take action. I started by becoming more educated and informed about the day-to-day operations of local and state
I have
government.
less than 15 seconds.
Okay, last October, I decided to run for Borough Council. I'm on the primary ballot in May for the South Ward. I believe my focus, dedication, life experiences, and love of our town would make me a valuable and productive member of our Borough Council.
Thank you. Donald Townsend, it's your turn.
Hello, this is Donald Townsend. I am a neighborhood mailman in the downtown area. And I'm actually going to keep this short and sweet because I know Miss Abbott and Miss Dan both quite well, and I cannot compete with a fifth of either of these. So I formally tender my resignation of candidacy. Thank you so much for the opportunity to try to present, though. Thank you.
Donald.
Oh,
Sorry to see you go.
It's a
As
shame.
someone who got 0 votes in one of these events, Donald, stick with it. It's a growing experience.
Well, I'll still be around, but I hope to see everything grow here, and I'll certainly keep an eye and ear out. Thank you.
Well, we're happy that you did show up, and we now have a voice to the person who used to sit in the back of our meetings. And thank you for that.
Donald. Questions for the 2 remaining candidates? Go ahead, Melissa.
Can you please tell me your thoughts on the masking policy that the borough wanted to enact before the governor's guidelines preceded them?
Either one.
I think that masking is a really common sense solution, or not a solution, but a common sense measure to what we have been going through. It takes nothing. It takes no effort. It is no inconvenience. And I think that I really applaud any organization that has been ahead of the curve in requiring masking and asking people to take this one small step that they can take to help protect everybody in our community, especially the most the members that are most at risk.
Barbara?
and here. Yes, the ordinance itself I felt was very unnecessary because we already had all the governor's guidelines with that. And the only thing that really changed was the in the ordinance, the first one was the ordinance that we put some teeth in it with the fines. And I really felt that was the unnecessary part of it. I think there was a lot of confusion with our residents because they felt with that ordinance that we did not have anything else in place. And that really was not true because we had the governor's order at that time.
Okay, other questions? Yes, Doug. You're muted.
I wasn't raising my hand. I thought Randy was gone, but I guess I'll ask both. I know Ms. Dan was before this vacancy occurred planning to run for the primary, so I know that she was interested. But Ms. Abbott, how did you find out about the vacancy, and what encouraged you to solicit the vacant seat? And are you know that at the end of this, you would have to run again in November to complete a 2-year term on the council? Is that something you are planning to do?
Yes, I found out about the position through Joanne. She contacted me and let me know that the position was open. And it really sounded like something that, you know, my kids are in college. I have a lot of flexibility because my husband and I own the business, and it seemed like a place where I could have a meaningful impact and fill a need in our community. And yes, I would intend then to run for the seat in November.
Thank you very much. I don't know, Ms. Dan, would you like to respond to that same question?
Sure. I'm sorry, with why I want to run for council? Was that the question?
Well, you didn't know at the time when you filed your petition that there would be an opening created, so.
Oh, no, I did not. I did not
already
know.
You
No,
had an interest in council beforehand.
yes,
and-
that is
and I'm
correct.
curious as to why maybe Ms. Abbott didn't have the same desire when there would have been a seat open in the ward. So I appreciate your initiative, and I was wondering why you chose to run this particular term.
Oh, for this one, because it opened up and my name's already on the ballot. I've done all the work to be on the primary ballot. I'm very interested in being part of council. And when I saw that Gina had left, that was also an opportunity. So I just applied for this too.
That makes good sense. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, seeing none, it is now time.
Hold on, I was trying to unmute and push a button at the same time.
Randy, go ahead.
So I appreciate both of you for coming forward. But I wondered what, as far as being invited by somebody, what do you feel what do you feel Bellefonte needs to do to move us forward in a positive manner?
Why don't you answer this time because Mary has been answering first, and I think that makes it fair to
okay.
everybody.
I definitely have lots of ideas for what could happen with council, but I think the biggest thing is actually communication and getting a lot more community involvement, both with things that people are happy about and things that that people don't think are going so well. So I really think that it's very important to get the community more involved and talk one-on-one with people, which I've been doing, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it so far.
Okay.
I have seen, as I said, I've seen so many changes in Bellefonte in the last 15 years, and I think that, we're moving in a great direction. I would love to see, I'm excited to see the Gamble Mill open up again. I have loved all the positive change that has come with, the development of the match factory and the development of the properties along Asman Road. I guess I would say I would like to see more of the same. I feel like as there are more options for people for entertainment, for employment, for just, spending time in the community rather than taking our entertainment, our shopping dollars into State College or, online or whatever, the more and more options that we have, the more we make it, easy for business owners to open and to grow here. I think we will just continue to see more of the same fabulous growth that we've been seeing over the past years.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, what we will do now is move to open the nominations
Madam
for,
President?
but I saw Ann's and then I heard your voice. So I'll take Ann's and then I'll take yours, Randy.
I nominate Mary Abbott.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so it's Walker and Eaton. Okay, now Randy, your turn.
Nominate Barbara Dan.
Who have a second?
I'll second Johnson.
Johnson. Okay. So the way this process works is that we're going to do this by roll call. And Ralph will be doing the roll call. And if we get a majority on the first one, that's when the voting ends. If we don't, then we move to the second candidate. And if we get a majority then that person, then Barbara. So if Mary gets a majority, she becomes council member. If she doesn't, then we can move to Barbara. If Barbara gets a majority, she becomes a council member. If she doesn't, then this whole process stops this evening and we move to the vacancy board, which will meet in 2 weeks when we add Dave Provan as the chair of the vacancy board to do the second round of voting. And then if we don't get a majority at that point, then it goes to, I understand, one of the county judges to make the decision for us. Do you all understand that? Okay. Ralph, it's your turn.
All righty, I'm gonna go down, starting with Mary, and do a roll call vote. So Mr. Johnson,
No.
Mr. Prendergast,
Yes.
Ms. Tosti Vasey,
Yes.
Ms. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Brackbill,
No.
Ms. Cleaton,
Yes.
Mr. Eaton,
Yes.
there's a 5, but Ms. Homboski,
Yes.
looks like Mary has enough of the yes votes. Looks like 5, yep.
That's,
That's
5, 6. There's 6 votes for Mary Abbott, 2 nays.
Yep.
So that means based on the borough law, Mary is now our new council member. What will happen, Mary, is that Ralph will get hold of you to fill out the paperwork. And as long as your paperwork meets all of the state requirements, then at the next meeting, Mayor Wilson will swear you in. Barbara, I'd like to thank you for doing this, coming in, offering your thing. And I wish you good luck in the primary since you're already in the ballot, and we'll see what happens.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
And thanks to
Thank you.
Donald also.
And if you two
Fire
would like to
station.
say throughout the rest of the meeting, we're perfectly pleased to have you do that. Okay, so moving on to the rest of the regular agenda, we now have a very long list of written communications.
I'll try to go through them as quick as I can. The first one is a letter from citizens complaining about their concerns about.
That rigged.
Did you see that shit? Thank God, at least he asked me. You know, I didn't know what he was asking at first. I'm like, okay,
I think we need to mute somebody
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
what about masks? Oh, masks are wonderful.
Hold on one second.
Okay.
Give me a second here. Let me see if I think I got or took care of that.
Okay.
I think we're sorry about that. I think we're good now. So anyway, letter from a concerned citizen about the pedestrian vehicle safety issues. Basically, in essence, the message was pedestrian education and the lighting is ineffective. So it's there for your consideration. I know council is looking at some ways to improve the situation.
Ralph, I'd like to add on to that because I think what that letter said was a lot of what we're talking about in our committee or the streets committee. And so I want to thank them for sending that letter in to us.
Yes, thank you very much. Yep. Downtown Bellefonte Incorporated Outdoor Adventure Expo in Talleyrand Park, October 3rd. They are wanting to use expanded area noon to 5. They're looking for waiver of the reservation fee as well.
Okay. I'd like to have a motion to conditionally approve the date of Saturday, October 3rd for the DBI Outdoor Adventure Expo in Talleyrand Park with the full timing and COVID review to be referred to Parks and Rec recommendation with the reservation fee to be waived. The damage deposit and administration fees, like everybody else, are not waived. Just FYI, their date, those times that were in the letter were only for the time of the actual event. They said they needed to talk to us about how much time they need in advance to set up. So that's why I put that part over in the Parks and Rec.
Okay.
So I need a motion.
I'll make the
Propose
motion.
Brackbill.
Clayton and Brackbill. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. So the date's approved and the rest will go to Parks and Rec.
Okay. The next item is the Boy Scouts, Juniata Valley, request to use Governor's Park for a Pinewood Derby event, May 23rd, noon to 4:30, but like you said, there's probably some setup. But they're asking to use Pavilion 12, which was unreserved. So we did sort of hold the date, and they're also asking for a waiver of the fee.
Okay. Need a motion to conditionally approve use of Pavilion 12 at Governor's Park on Sunday, May 23rd from noon to 4:30 for the 2021 District Cub Scout Pinewood Derby. This is not a Bellefonte-based nonprofit, at least it doesn't look like it. So there would not be a fee waiver unless they can show that to us in committee, and the rest of the review needs to go to Parks and Rec. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make the
I'll make the
motion.
motion.
That was Eden and
Pendergrass.
Prendergast. Okay. Discussion?
If the Boy Scout group includes the local chapter, the Boy Scouts, Joanne, would we then waive the fee?
Yeah.
The local troop?
I don't know how to answer that.
Well, I mean, they can simply reapply in the local chapter name, because
Right.
the person that wrote the letter is from
It's from-
Bellefonte.
The letter came out of Reedsville.
Yeah.
So if they replied under Bellefonte, then yes, but if they don't, then no.
Okay.
And just to be consistent with everyone else that we've had.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, so moved.
Okay, next item, Bellefonte YMCA request to use Governor's Park multiple dates. Basically, their summer day care camp program they run every year. It said for like 25 years. The exact dates weren't in there, but it's basically when school's out till about mid-August, I believe.
Yeah. I'd like to refer this entire one over to Parks and Rec because there are no dates available and we need to make sure that we're not conflicting with anything else. I don't think we are, but it's just to be safe.
Okay. Next item, Downtown Bellefonte Incorporated, Bellefonte Under the Lights special event. They have two areas they're looking at, the waterfront or Talleyrand Park, and September 3rd, 4:30 to 8:30, what they're looking at.
Okay, so we need a motion to conditionally approve the date of Friday, September 3rd from 4:30 to 8:30 for the DBI Bellefonte Under the Night Lights event. Location and details are to be referred to Parks and Rec for at a later date closer to the event to include when they're going to need setup time in advance.
I'll make that motion, Brackbill.
Okay.
I'll second it, Walker.
Brackbill and Walker. Discussion?
Ask CBI to put all their requests. They got 3 different ones here, and since they're all going to be provisionally approved, so that we could bundle this up into a smaller package.
That's my rushing around on Friday afternoon. Sorry about that.
Well,
Okay.
Ralph, I knew it was all your fault.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? So moved.
To be opposed to cleanup.
Yeah, the next item, annual watershed cleanup day, April 24th. They're looking for our help, volunteers, equipment, labor, sort of governing what happens here in the borough as far as the cleanup alongside the stream.
Okay. This one I think might take just a tiny bit more discussion. What I'd like to have is the mayor create a proclamation for our next meeting to declare April 24th as Spring Creek Watershed Cleanup Day. I'd like for us to, for a couple minutes, to brainstorm where we'd like this cleanup assistance. And then finally, we would need a motion to provide assistance to the Clearwater Conservancy for Public Works to provide equipment and refuse pickup afterwards, and appoint Ralph as the contact person to meet with Deb Nardone to review and finalize the COVID protocols for this cleanup day, and to advertise on our Facebook and website. Do I have that motion?
I'll make the motion, Brackbill.
I'll second it, Clayton.
Okay. Do you want to discuss the motion and then we'll do the other part? Okay, seeing no discussion, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 All opposed, so moved. So basically what we want to know is, I'd like, so Ralph has some ideas. Where would you like Spring Creek, where would you like Clearwater Conservancy to do this event on April 24th? They're asking for some input.
Just, I mean, generally they are right around the stream edge. We know that there's been some concerns from residents around our little parklet over here.
Cross Park?
Yeah, Krause Park area, and from there down to the borough line, basically. I would say that's an excellent area to focus on. You know, from there upstream, you know, it's pretty well cleaned on a regular basis. You know, up, and I think up even near Sutton, I don't know much debris up in that area, or brush or things that could get in there, garbage, but the lower part probably could use some attention.
Thoughts, anyone?
I think that's a good idea. I think what's it been, almost 3 years since we've done anything down there?
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Probably a couple.
Yeah.
And it's a close area, so everybody's kind of more together, I think, down there. And I think we get more done, actually. And we're not so spread out.
Any other thoughts? Okay, Ralph, I think you have your marching orders.
All right. Let's see here, just looking down, Friday on the font, special events by DBI. There's 4 dates that they're looking at, and some of it's downtown, some of it's in the park, and some of it's near the courthouse.
Okay. So I talked to Ralph this afternoon, and based on our conversation, what I'd like to do is make a conditional approval for the June 25th and July 23rd dates. Since we don't control activities on the courthouse lawn, DBI would need to get permission for those 2 days, for the May 28th and September 24th events from the county commissioners, not us. So do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
Eaton and Prendergast, and then the details would go to building and property. No, we decided that there's more complications in the park, so we go to park. Which one did we decide, Ralph?
You said building and property to try to lighten the load a little bit.
Okay.
That was really the focus.
Okay.
There's a lot of projects going to going to parks.
Okay.
They want to try to lighten it up a little bit.
Okay. So any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the conditional approval for June 25th and July 23rd with referral to building and property for the rest of it, please say aye.
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 All opposed? So moved.
Next item is a household hazardous waste collection event scheduled for April 30th and May 1st. I want to emphasize it's because of the COVID issues, it's a pre-registration only event. You must pre-register to go. If you have any other questions or want to pre-register, go to the Center County Refuse and Recycling website or give them a phone call and they can pre-register you for the either one of those 2 days. But it's very clear on the flyer that you have to pre-register.
Could we post that on our website for the public's
Sure.
access? Also our Facebook page?
Sure. All right, so I'll continue on here. Riffraff date, there was a letter requesting, I believe it's a postponement or keep the dates that we already have, but consider a second event or postponing the May event until later, like probably October is the request.
Were they requesting to postpone it or an addition?
Well, I don't think the letter writer, cares whether there's one event or two, but they're asking for an event in October. They're basically saying they could not be ready in May for this type of event. The thing of it is we've only budgeted, we're only budgeting for one event. So
Right.
It's not like something we can do, 2 times a year.
How costly is that?
It's fairly costly, both in labor and in additional costs at the transfer station.
Ralph, relative.
Okay, John.
Relative to our staffing in the refuse department, would there be an advantage if we shifted the dates or anything?
It's funny you brought that up. We are having staffing issues. We're moving, people are moving around in the departments and so on. Because of that, October at this point looks like it would be better than in May.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we delay it till October this year because of the manpower issues in the refuse department.
Do you have a date in mind?
Dawn put in the letter what we did last year. We could follow that. I think that would work. That's maybe that same week. What are you thinking, Dawn?
Now you caught me off guard there. I have no idea what date we would do in October.
How about we'll tentatively look and see if make sure there isn't any major conflicts. I believe it was the first.
I think it was the first full week in October.
But
Well, you have your outdoor expo on the 3rd.
yeah, the riffraff, would be, well, yes, we wouldn't want a lot of stuff setting out over the weekend.
Yeah.
With people coming into town. Let me take a look at what's before and after, and we'll get back to you, but we can at least get the word out that we're looking at an October date instead of the May date.
So let me see if I'm clear. So what we're doing is passing a motion to cancel the May riffraff, move to October with the final decision for the date at the next meeting.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so that was Eden, and who is seconding that?
I'll second it.
Walker. Okay.
Yeah.
Randy, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we had everything proper and ready. So does this affect the yard sales?
We
Yes.
might as well, yes, I would say yes. We usually run them together because if you have excess yard sale things that didn't sell, it's a good opportunity, free opportunity to get rid of it. So
Well, I'm going to speak against the motion because I feel like last year, I can't remember if there were some weather issues or what, but I know that as far as what I call collectors who go around and look for things through items being thrown away, that didn't seem to be as busy as the springtime collections. And I don't know whether the dates caused that, but that's the only change that was made. So I have to assume that it was the dates.
I would think, Randy, that we confuse people because for years and years we had it in May and then we moved it to out of May and people lost track of it. I honestly think that's what it was. Now that's good and bad, but I think that's what happened.
Possibly, but it only happened once. And
Okay. Doug, I see you next.
Why are we moving the date? Tell me why. I didn't hear why we're moving the date.
You want me to try to answer that?
I don't care who answers. I saw one letter in the packet asking to move it. So
yes, and then let me try to explain. Mr. Eaton asked me about the labor in the refuse department, which there are people moving around in the department. And would I think it would be better in May than in October? My opinion is it would be better in October. I may be wrong on that, but that's what I said. I would stand by that, and then council can decide whether you want to move it or not.
we have everybody geared up for May right now, and we're going to change it. I think we should keep it as it is, as we have in the past.
And
well, Randy mentioned something that, there are collectors who drive around and, pick through stuff. So what we could do is, in lieu of paying, the refuse department, we could just have like a weekend where we suspend the penalty, and it's like put your crap on the sidewalk weekend, and let everybody drive around, and anything that's left at the end of the weekend, you're responsible for removing from the sidewalk. Because that would give the trash pickers a chance to drive around and pick through trash. And it would give people the opportunity to get rid of some stuff, and it wouldn't put an extra burden on the refuse department.
Are you talking about this in the fall?
No, in May, when everybody's used to it.
That's really what we do with the yard sale stuff. It's not a whole lot different. Some people set out stuff for free and so on, and then they have riffraff a couple days later. But I agree that more people are thinking it's in May and have it on the radar if it's in May.
When do our part-time folks start?
They're back now.
And can they help in the riffraff collection?
Yes.
Does that still leave us shorthanded with their help?
I'm just saying, Doug, there's people moving around. Maybe, by May, I can't tell you exactly how it's going to be. We can do it either in May or October. If we have to pull people, which we usually do anyway, we pull people from other departments. So we're going to
do we have the part-time people in October?
I'd say early October, yes.
Okay. Melissa and then Mike.
I think I remember last year there were far more complaints for us moving it to October than there were for this one person who wants us to keep it in October. So I think it's going to create a lot of problems to move it. However, I would request that if you are concerned about manpower, that we hold off the decision till after you have made that determination.
Hey, Mike.
Well, I'm geared up for the May collection, but I wouldn't mind having one in October. I'd suggest next year we budget for 2 of them.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay. Tom, were you going to say something?
No, I'm just wondering. I'm glad this is not a life or death situation. Lord have mercy. Come on, man. Let's go.
Okay.
I agree.
Any other comments? Okay, so we'll move to a vote. All in favor of moving it to October, please say aye.
I'll say aye. I voted for that, or I made the motion.
Okay, all opposed?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, so motion fails with 1 aye and 7 nays. And the 1 aye is John Eaton.
Can I?
I could have got half.
Who was
of
that? I
the-
missed that name.
Do I?
I
Is
was
this-
really hoping to be there when that half of the mayor's snowblower went to the riffraff. I want to see that half of the snowblower.
Anyway,
Okay, moving on.
All righty. Next item is, it's actually about an economic development idea, but it says going out for a pint, craft breweries as neighborhood assets. It's more or less, it's for your information. Although Penn State Extension is doing a little 1-hour webinar on this topic. And again, it's about economic development. The webinar is April 15th. There's no charge. It's another item where you must register or pre-register, and they will send you the link. So go to Penn State's Extension website and look for further information.
Okay.
Good to go?
Yep, yeah, or if you can call up the local Penn State Extension office and they'll get
Yeah.
you, and they can do the registration for you over the phone.
Yes. Next item is also from, well, it's from the Center County Refuse and Recycling Authority. They're asking council to oppose House Bill 255. It's about,
225.
well, it's stated 225 on the agenda, but I looked over the actual bill today and it's actually 255.
Okay.
Again, my dyslexia or something. But anyway, it's about, they're opposing moving recycling funds at the state level to the general fund. And of course, it would impact our recycling costs that we pay Center County Refuse and Recycling. It would impact other costs that are associated with that industry. We would also take away potential grant funds that we receive to buy refuse-related equipment. So again, I think it would be advisable to oppose this bill.
So could I have a motion to send a letter to have Ralph and Don craft a letter to send to Senator Corman and Representative Benninghoff to oppose the transfer of state recycling aid funds to the general budget?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Eaton and Clayton. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So moved.
Next item is a Center County Central Booking Center, which was created about 10 years or so ago. The director there is just voicing some funding concerns. They've had some very tight budgets where they've used reserve funds, and potentially we may see a request for funding assistance in the 2022 budget year or next year's budget. It's just kind of giving a warning.
So I guess what we need to do is just let Lori know that this is a potential new line item in our budget for 2022.
Yes, kind of just put it on the radar. Yes.
And refer to the Finance Committee for further follow-up later in the year.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Next item, there's about a 2-page update from the Bellefonte Art Museum for Center County, or the museum we have here in Bellefonte, what we call the former Lynn House. Talks about some names. They did some naming and some just very, very good information about some updates of their activities. Bellefonte Historic Streets Tablet Project, was a thank you, but also in the request or the information was a letter looking at or recommending that council and the authority look at doing a marker over near the big spring at some point.
Okay, I think we need to refer this to Parks and Rec and Talleyrand Park Committee because it's another thing being placed in the parks.
Okay.
I'd like to add, Joanne, that we really need to look at the budget on this. I know that this seemed to have caught Parks and Rec
Yes.
a little bit in the beginning, and I think we need to try to avoid these situations. You know, even this thing coming from Central Booking Coordinator, Ralph took off on me real quick. I tried to get on, but I'm concerned about these types of things that come in where you have no control over what the asking is going to be. And you know, I'm wondering, I'm not that familiar with this group because I don't think I've ever seen it come across this for quite a while, but can you explain exactly what they do for Bellefonte?
Well, I see Mr. Brower is on. He can probably explain it much better than I can. Let me just say this. When they moved the booking center, created the booking center up at the new county prison, there was a first that no one knew the exact income. And there was a request that municipalities that used the booking center for just what it sounds like, booking somebody who's been arrested. They do the fingerprinting, what have you there. And Bellefonte did commit that if they did not meet their certain budget, we would be on the hook. Now, I'd have to go back and look at that original documentation to see if it's a continuous on the hook or what it said. But they have never, just as the letter said, they've never come back and said we needed money. They always had enough revenue with fines and fees and whatnot to cover their expenses. So just keeping it relatively short this evening, that's what it's about. Let's wait and see what happens, towards the fall of this year, see if we get any more letters or anything from them.
Okay, I thought that's what it was, but I wasn't sure whether I was reading it right. So that I was on the right track, but I just wondered. So it's basically Bellefonte using their services and facilities for a booking.
Yes,
Okay.
I can't remember how we did it before, but we agreed to, if we were going to use it, it would save us time and money, and they would try to make the fees work, and they did for 10 years, but they've had a couple years where it didn't work out.
Well, we're having a couple of years where it isn't working out as well. So I just wanted, we need to keep it in front of us, I think.
Yes.
Mr. Brower, do you have any additional comments?
Can you all hear me? I know I haven't been on yet.
Oh,
Yeah.
we're good.
Okay. Yeah. So booking center, it's actually a very useful asset for us. I would definitely support that. I know we're in the budget times, but if we get to the point they need a little something, we do utilize it a lot. They do all of our fingerprinting, all of our processing. It is a facility that we use on a pretty regular basis.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'm going to continue on down here. I've got the museum, tablets, PADP, focus on energy newsletter, assistant FYI, various happenings across the state. And then the APPI newsletter is similar, maybe a national level, giving you some insight what's happening to the energy level, industry, solar, natural gas, liquid natural gas, and so on. So it's there for your information. I believe that's all we had. Well, I think was there one more letter that came in today? Do you recall if we got something else today, Joanne?
I didn't see anything.
Trying to recall. I might, if I think of something, I might bring it up later. It seems to me something came in today. Do you recall anything, Dawn?
You're muted, Don.
No, Ralph, I don't.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was thinking of Lori's memo. So that's we'll talk about that later.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, is this APPI the company that we're working with on our getting our reduced costs for electricity?
Yes, that's why we're getting your newsletters, and probably will be getting them each month.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else received any written communications? Seeing none, Tom, please give us your mayor report.
Yes, well, coming to you from the great state of Iowa, I would just like you to understand there or have, I'm asking, I guess, if everybody has looked at the police report. I thought it was very thorough. I like the fact that we're getting some examples of what our officers are dealing with on a regular basis, along with the statistical data. There was one other thing in there that I read earlier today that I want to comment on, and I can't remember exactly what it was. We'll be talking, I think, a little bit later about the radar movement in the House and the Senate. And I can tell you that the State Mayors Association has been dealing with this and lobbying for radar to be legal in the state of Pennsylvania for the last 7 years. We are the only state in the nation that does not allow local radar. That may tell you something. So there's something wrong with our legislators, and I wholeheartedly back that we consistently get on our representatives here in town to move that initiative forward. Jason, do you have anything further that you can add towards that, or anything else that you would like to speak to?
I'll keep it brief. With radar, as regards to radar, when I worked in North Dakota, we did have radar out there. It is a much easier tool to use to regulate speed. Even though we are a fairly low speed limit town, it does have advantages for us. If that passes, it's certainly something we could utilize more of. The only other thing I would add to the mayor is, as far as pedestrians, we are starting some out of the vehicle downtown foot patrols in the evenings. So far, I started the night shift on that. Trying to hit Fridays because that's typically our busiest downtown night right now. If we're not tied up on calls, we've done it, I think, twice so far, but we've been kind of busy on Fridays, so that hasn't been able to utilize it a lot. We're trying to make a little more of a presence to get folks across the streets in the busy times from like 6 to 7, 8 o'clock, somewhere in that ballpark, because I know we are pretty busy downtown right now. We are also, with warmer weather, our calls are escalating rapidly, so we are getting fairly busy on call stuff. Just to let council know, the police report is probably going to get a little bit longer. And traffic, as we can get out and mark the roads again, because we can't use radar, we have to use the road markings. We will be doing that. The salt eats away our paint, so it makes it very difficult for us to do that over the winter. So we are working on reestablishing our VASCAR zones so we can start some speed initiatives, because I know that's always an issue in the spring when we have people out on their porches, everybody's going fast. So just a couple things we're trying to work on as the weather clears up. Things are starting to pick up a little bit.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's all I have for now, unless somebody has anything for me.
What about the animal control? Oh, that's in February.
No, we got an animal control report today.
Okay.
I thought it was in the pack.
Well, the report's there. If you read it, you know what it is.
I did. I thought we got one in the packet.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Does anyone have anything else for the police department? If not, I am working. I've been kind of skating calls here, so I got to run and take care of some things. If nobody else has anything else.
Jason, I have a
Go for
question.
it.
Yes,
I
sir.
have a question offline. Sometime I'd like to ask you. I have a question for you offline. So,
Okay.
Later.
thank you.
Thank you.
Jason, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead and log out unless anybody has something else. Somebody else have something for Jason? No? Okay,
No.
you're dismissed.
Thank you.
Thanks,
See you, bud.
Jason.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay. So it's now my turn. I have 2 items this evening, and the first one is on masking and social distancing. As of April 4th, 18% of Center County's residents have been fully vaccinated. That leaves 82% of the county population still fully exposed to COVID-19. We currently have an increase in these cases in the county. Last Tuesday, Mount Nittany Medical Center reported that they were experiencing the highest number of hospitalizations since the pandemic began. And on Saturday, they once again closed the hospital to almost all visitations. Furthermore, the sewage study data out of the county indicates that the more virulent and dangerous form of COVID-19 has appeared here in the county. We need to, in an abundance of caution, remain vigilant and continue to mask and social distance while we're out in the public. There are at least 5 reasons to continue to wear a mask, even if you have been vaccinated. First, it takes time for the vaccine to kick in. Second, none of the vaccines provide 100% protection. There's no way to tell who the 5% will be who don't respond to the vaccine and will still be at risk for COVID-19. Third, those who have been vaccinated might be asymptomatic spreaders. The experts at the CDC are concerned that vaccinated people can still become infected without symptoms and then spread it to others who have not been vaccinated yet. Fourth, we still need to protect those with compromised immune system and those who can't be vaccinated. This includes people with chronic medical conditions like heart disease and cancer, and it also includes people that had a severe allergic reaction to their first shot, who are now being advised not to get the second dose. And finally, there are still limited doses of the vaccine. More than 330 million people in the United States have yet to receive the vaccine. Experts are saying that 50 to 80% of the population will need to be vaccinated to reach herd immunity, which unfortunately could possibly take us until the end of 2021. Bellefonte passed a resolution indicating that we would follow and enforce the governor's emergency orders related to the COVID-19 pandemic. These orders include following the CDC guidelines. In some cases, masking and social distancing restrictions have been relaxed, but not while you're out in the public. The Centers for Disease Control say that fully vaccinated people can, and we fully applaud this, visit in private settings indoors without wearing masks or physically distancing with other fully vaccinated people and with unvaccinated people who are at low risk of severe COVID-19 reactions. They can also refrain from quarantine and testing following a known exposure if they're asymptomatic. They can resume domestic travel and refrain from testing before and after travel and in the States, and also if international travel, unless they're required for the testing and quarantine in the foreign country. But for now, fully vaccinated people and anyone who has not yet been fully vaccinated should continue to take precautions in public, like wearing a well-fitted mask and continue physical or social distancing. You should be wearing masks, practicing physical and social distancing, and adhering to other prevention measures when visiting with unvaccinated people who are at increased risk for severe COVID-19 disease, or who have an unvaccinated member who is at increased for this disease. You should also continue wearing masks, maintaining physical distance, and practicing other prevention measures when visiting unvaccinated people from multiple households. Avoid medium and large size in-person gatherings. And if you do experience any COVID-19 symptoms, please get tested. We are all in this together. Thank you for being considerate of everyone in our community. Help make us all safe and healthy. Thank you. So if there are any questions, I can try to answer them. That information came to me from the Cleveland Clinic and the Centers for Disease Control. My second this evening is I'm going to be sharing my screen. Let me find it real quick. Hold on. I have to go get my desktop. I don't do this very often, so hold on a second.
That's okay.
Okay, on, can you see my screen? Okay.
Mhm.
On March 30th, I attended a White House Office of Government Affairs briefing that was given by Gabriel Yu. He's the Associate Director of the Office of Government Affairs, and his colleague Howard Camlin. They gave a 15-minute briefing on the American Rescue Plan and how it would impact Pennsylvania. The bill was signed into law on March 11th. Come on. Okay. Let me, whoops, I didn't mean to. Okay. Put that back again. Okay. Okay. Oh, come on. I'm sorry about this. Try one more time. Should have practiced this earlier because I've never done this before.
You're fine, Joanne. We can see the second slide.
Oh, okay. So the funding that you see here is the key components of the American Rescue Plan. And all you see is 6 different bullet points, but I think they can be dropped down to 3 major areas. First is the health of the American public. So it's funding for vaccines, mass vaccination sites, and testing deployment. The second is assisting with the economy, which includes $1,400 checks to approximately 85% of the households in Pennsylvania. Unemployment assistance. Whoops. That's going down the next one. Okay. Come on. Here we go. So in terms of Pennsylvania, there's the $1,400 checks to approximately 85% of the households. Unemployment assistance for about 11 million people in Pennsylvania. Expansion of the child tax credits to about 2.4 million kids in the state. And this is expected to cut childhood poverty in half. And the part that's affecting the borough most would be this community assistance. There's 12 across the state, there's 12 to 13 billion dollars in direct relief to municipalities. Bellefonte is getting about $630,000 of that. There's also an additional $5 billion in direct relief to school districts. And there will be funds to pay for services such as utilities to individuals. The American Rescue Plan will probably allow both the personal funds that are sent to individuals through this $1,400 check, as well as funds granted to municipalities to be able to help pay for things such as the residence utility bills. However, the details have not yet been worked out. And then there'll be more small business assistance. They expect this part of the program to increase the number of jobs across the U.S. to about 4 million slots. At the end of the presentation, I asked about what the rules are, and what Mr. Yu said was that the Treasury Department will be sending out the checks and setting up the guidelines for the disbursement of the funds. Both the checks and guidelines to municipalities will be sent out by May 10th. However, the Treasury Department still hasn't set up the guidelines, so we're still not quite sure yet as to exactly how we can spend this money once it comes in. What we do know is that we can't change our tax rates because this money is coming in. Any questions?
So, Joanne, I'm sorry, it just took me a while to get that. So what do you mean at that last statement that we can't change our tax?
Well, what the law says is that we can't use the funds from the COVID-19 to reduce the millage rate that we created last fall.
Okay, I understand then. Okay. I didn't hear it that way the first time, but
yeah,
I understand.
Oh, and upward.
Any other questions? Okay, in that case, we'll move on to building and property. Ann? You're muted. You're still muted.
Sorry about that. Okay, we are to consider approval of the surplus item disposal list through municipal bid auction. Do I need to like enumerate these?
No, I was in the packet. I was just looking for council approval or a motion
Okay.
and all that.
So
I'll
you're
make a
making
motion to approve.
And I'll second it.
Eaton and Walker. Discussion?
You said that was in the packet? Oh, here it is.
Yeah. There's 7 sets of surplus items. The last 2 sets are lots and lots of parking meters and parking heads.
Didn't we have an interest from Springtown or Milheim?
I think over time, there's been multiple interests.
Oh,
We
okay.
did, in order not to show favoritism or whatever, we just put them out on municipal bid. A lot of municipalities use that service. It works pretty well that way. If Milheim or Center Hall or whoever wants to bid on them, they can.
Not a problem. I just wasn't sure how that worked.
Okay, Randy?
Yeah, I just wonder, when you sell these items, where does that go back into? Does that go back into the department they came from, or
I would
just go? I don't just wonder where it went.
Generally speaking, it goes in the department it came from.
Other questions, discussion? Doug?
Did you ever sell that motorcycle yet?
Yes, a couple months ago.
Are you interested?
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to sell and dispose of these surplus items, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to finance. Since we have a vacancy here, you want to take this over, Ralph?
Sure. The one line item is just obviously letting people know that we did meet on Monday, March 29th with Delta Development, the consultant, working on our strategic management plan. That meeting went well, although we did not finish everything. So we are setting up another special meeting, again, to work on the final draft of the plan. That meeting is scheduled for Monday, April 26th at 6:30 p.m. It'll be a virtual meeting. If the public would want to join the meeting for whatever reason, we will have to contact us and we'll send you the link.
Okay. Any questions? Seeing none, Melissa, Parks and Rec.
Thank you. Over the past 2 weeks, our committee has met with multiple groups in the area. When we have these meetings, we talk one-on-one with each organizer and talk about the COVID guidelines that we have now, what COVID guidelines we could see in the future, and what precautions that they're taking to ensure the safety of our community. So if anyone is interested in specifics of what we ask these groups, I can look at my notes and provide them to you. Otherwise, I'm just going to go down my list of people who have requested reservations from us for us to approve or deny. In some of these cases, we have already approved the holding of the date, and this is just approval of the event to go forward. And maybe 1 or 2 of these didn't have the date saved. I don't know. They're all together. Recommend the approval of the Bellefonte Elks request for Talleyrand Park for Flag Day on June 14th, 2021, provided the organizer follows state and federal guidelines as outlined in the meeting.
I'll make the motion.
No, she made the motion, you're seconding it.
Oh, then I'll second it. I missed that part of that introduction.
Okay. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Please.
Aye.
Aye.
Can
All
we do
opposed?
these all- Can we do them all as one motion?
Well, they're not all,
Melissa? Can you name them all in one motion and we can vote on all of them at once?
Joanne, is
no,
that possible?
not because you got one that you can't. So you could put all the ones that are okay to go ahead as one motion, but that one that isn't, you'll need to pull out.
Which one's that?
The wedding.
I didn't have that one because she did not. I don't know what's happening with that. I don't feel like she answered questions.
That's why, but see, it's listed here. That's why I said that one cannot go in with the list.
Yeah, I don't, unless she talked to Ralph after our meeting, I don't.
There, I responded, I did receive an email with, basically explaining some of the background. She was a little uncertain as to how to move forward. I said, this is what they ask of all the event holders, very similar. I said, so I'm waiting for a response. That was last week sometime. So I have not heard from her since last week.
Okay. Joanne, do you want to move, since this one is already on the table, should we move forward with this one and then I'll run through the rest of them and we can combine them?
Yeah,
Okay,
sounds good.
let's do that.
So you're having a motion to not approve at this point. Is that correct?
The motion that we have on the table is to approve Bellefonte Elks for Flag Day.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Sorry for my
Yeah, so-
confusion.
No, is it okay to push this one
Yes,
through and then I'll?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Discussion on the Flag Day. Seeing none, all in favor, please say
Aye.
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 All opposed? So moved.
All right, the remainder of mine, recommend the approval of the Bellefonte Little League's request for Talleyrand Park Duck Race on Saturday, June 20th, 2021, provided the organizer follows state and federal guidelines as outlined in the meeting. Recommend approval of the Bellefonte Soccer Association's request for Governor's Park Soccer Field for Soccer League from May 22nd, 2021 to June 12th, 2021. Provided the organizer follows state and federal guidelines. They are also following PIAA guidelines. Recommend the approval of the Bellefonte Intervalley Chamber of Commerce request for Talleyrand Park Annex Field for the annual croquet tournament on August 8th, 2021, with a rain date of August 15th, 2021, provided the organizer follows state and federal guidelines as outlined in the meeting. Recommend the approval of the YMCA of Center County's request for Governor's Park for a volleyball tournament on June 5th, June 10th, July 31st, 2021, provided the organizer follows state and federal guidelines as outlined in the meeting.
Okay, we have that motion. Who's going to second?
I'll second it, but I have a question. Did you say for that duck race, was that the 19th or the 20th?
Our agenda says 19, but it
There's 19 in the agenda.
Okay, it is whatever this Saturday is. I think they were also saying they weren't going to
19th.
publicize the date because they don't want the public to congregate. So if it's in the, whatever is in our thing.
19th. It's the
Yeah,
Yeah,
19th.
then the 19th,
They're not publishing the time. because
Okay.
of- Yeah,
the 19th, my bad.
All right, I second it.
okay, so we've got Hamboski and Prendergast all the way through. Discussion other than the one we've already had? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed?
Thanks for that.
So moved.
Thanks for that suggestion, Doug.
Yeah, thank you, Doug. One I did not include in this is for the YMCA. They want to do a triathlon of sorts, and I didn't know exactly how I should phrase that in this meeting because it requires street approval and I think approval for Krause Park, kind of. So that one I didn't leave. I think she also did not submit a request for that date yet, so I guess we'll wait for Annie to submit that from the Y. Otherwise, I feel like I covered all of our meetings.
And we'll just leave the wedding hanging until we find out what's happening.
Yes, I did have, I did receive an email from a citizen about Krause Park. That someone may be chopping down saplings on the banks of Krause Park. I feel like that's not the borough doing that. I have not gone down to check.
I've been down there and it looks like it's pretty crudely done. So yeah, I don't think it's the borough doing it.
Okay.
Well, there's a lot of fishing going on down at that end. So people walking down in could be causing that.
Yeah, that's what I would assume too. Or, I don't know, kids fussing around down there, but maybe that's something that we can mention to the police.
Some of the broken branches are not, do not look like they appear to be anything to do with fishing.
Okay.
Are these branches that are broken, are they a safety hazard?
I do not know. I have not been down there. It just said that someone is still chopping down any sapling that tries to grow on the banks of Krause Park.
My second question is, with the erosion issues, is that going to increase the erosion?
I would assume yes. We need every tree that we can get in that park to hold the bank together.
So is that something the police could look into?
I can ask them again. I know that previously Chief Weaver has sent people down to patrol the area, but I can ask again.
Okay. Anything else for Parks and Rec?
I have nothing further.
Does anyone else have anything? Okay, seeing none, moving on to Human Resources. John?
Okay, I'm going to introduce the topic that on the 29th, we had our last meeting with the negotiating teams from the union for the Public Works agreement. And Ralph, I'm going to turn it over to you on any details you wish to discuss.
Well, we usually don't discuss them. I mean, that's the idea of negotiations, and we have this, I guess, unwritten understanding. We're not going to go to the press or this or that. But I would just say it's going, I think, fairly well. You know, I think we're trying to work through, see their issues. They're looking at our issues. I would just say it's you know, going well, and I anticipate that same atmosphere continuing as we go forward.
Yeah, it seems to be quite congenial. Not very little disagreement, I would say.
Yes.
And then you have some updates on vacancies.
Yes, I mentioned a couple of times this evening that, you know, we have some people moving around internally when we post a position. You know, usually there's a domino effect between the departments, and that's continuing. It's why we try to start early, and then in some cases we don't actually move the person, the top candidate, until their position's filled, because we just don't have the labor to backfill. So that's taking place in a nutshell. Probably the other bigger situation is the assistant superintendent position at the treatment plant, wastewater treatment plant. It's been advertised. We've had a first round of interviews with candidates. We have scheduled a final round, or look, we think it'll be a final round this coming Thursday, because it is the wastewater treatment plant. And, you know, it's a high level position. I did ask Mr. Johnson to sit in, as he represents both the authority and council. And we're going to get another outside view of someone from the industry to help us look at the final candidates. So potentially by the next meeting, we might have an update on that.
Okay.
Questions? Any additional stuff for human resources? Seeing none. Randy, safety?
Unmute here. All right. I'll start with the Bellefonte Fire Department Executive Committee meeting we held on March 25th. I will need the minutes from that, Ralph, if you can send that in a Word to me again.
Okay.
So I can update other information that the minute or the recordings don't usually pick up as far as attendance and things like that. So the brunt of the meeting was basically dealing with physicals and the SAFER grant were the main topics. And then a third topic that came up, the month of April, it's coming to the close of Chief Lohr's year of filling in the vacancy of Chief Snyder. So that started last July 1st. So that year is up June 30th this year. With that, the Bellefonte Fire Executive Committee on the 25th meeting approved a motion by unanimous vote recommending to Bellefonte Borough Council to approve Chief Lohr to continue as the Bellefonte Fire Chief for a 3-year term starting July 1st, 2021, ending July 30th, 2024. This will be Chief Lohr's first 3-year term. I'll make a motion to approve Chief Lohr for his first 3-year term starting July 1st, 2021.
Second it.
That was Prendergast, okay. Discussion?
Seems to be doing a decent job.
I think so. I appreciate him stepping forward. I think he's, you know, a lot of challenges over this past year in 2020, and they still continue this year yet. And, you know, the SAFER grants, putting some pressure on some guys because, you know, it's a lot to try to put a program together like this. And I think Nick Caputo, our manager of that grant, is trying to do his best to get things going because really no activity occurred last year. And so people feel they're playing catch up, and I'm hoping they can just hang in there and we'll get through this. I think Nick, again, is trying to do his best to get, you know, some advertisements and things like that going here. I know there's a RFP out. I don't know the status of that at this point. I don't think it's in yet. So anyway, I'm hoping that'll continue moving through. And the physicals part, where there was some confusion as far as new members being brought in or given a different physical than our current members are getting. And so there was some confusion there. So we're still working on that, and Nick's helping with that as well.
Okay. Do we have any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of Chief Lohr for a 3-year term starting July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2024, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So moved.
All right, thank you. That's all I have for safety.
Any questions for safety? Seeing none, water and sanitation, Doug?
Thank you, Madam President. Hey, Ralph.
Yes.
Can I defer this to you because I don't know anything about this MCGA NRWA position statement on cybersecurity.
Oh, sure. I just give a quick overview. I gave it both to council and the authority. The authority will see it tomorrow night.
Right.
You may have heard around the Super Bowl about a small area outside Orlando that had a water contamination issue right when the Super Bowl was taking place. And basically it was people that hacked into what they call the SCADA system, which is an acronym for the control system of those pumps and motors and chemicals that feed chemicals into water. So somebody went in, illegally and turned up the chemical feed to the water supply. And fortunately, a water operator caught that and put the stop to it. But the message to all water suppliers and even wastewater suppliers that are wastewater distributors that use the SCADA systems is beware. Have your systems checked for this, cybersecurity, not only hackers, previous employees, what have you, make sure it's a good solid system, very hard, if not impossible to get into. So I thought because we're all one umbrella, you should see that. And I want you to know we're going to look into it and start to evaluate. I think we have a very good SCADA system at both facilities, the water and the wastewater system. But I want you to know we are looking into, whether it needs updated or anything needs done to it.
Thank you, Ralph. And I have to say, Mr. Eaton brought this up a year or so ago at one of our authority meetings of the cybersecurity attacks on small water systems. Yeah. And you're right, we have been monitoring that all throughout the years, trying to keep it updated. So I appreciate that. The other items on there, we do have an authority meeting tomorrow night at 6 p.m. I think we already mentioned the household hazardous waste collection at the Center County Recycle Center. You have to register for that event. It's Friday, April 30th and Saturday, May 1st. And to register, it's www.centercountyrecycles.org. And it's a first come, first serve appointment scheduling. So the sooner you get on the schedule, the more likely you will get a time slot. Reminder, this Wednesday is our first grass and brush collection day. Do I have that accurate, Dawn and Ralph?
Yes.
So residents can now on Wednesday set out their grass and brush containers for pickup. I think that's it for me. Any questions?
As a reminder, Doug, we have the Water and Sanitation Committee meeting.
That's right. April 7th at 2 p.m. we have a Water and Sanitation meeting. A reminder to the committee. Thank you, Dawn.
And can you tell the public what the meeting's about?
The meeting?
Yeah.
It's about the gate system and how we're going to operate it and how we're going to allow access to the MLRC, Muscle Lane Recycle Center. So
very good, Doug.
Yeah, right. So that's our agenda item. Right now, nothing has changed. Okay, I think that's it for me.
Well, Doug, the only thing I will say is talking about the cybersecurity. I'm still a little bit concerned about that monitoring system that I forget the name of the company that you saw a couple years ago at the One Borough Association meeting. That making sure that doesn't become the entry point for the people to get to the SCADA system. So
that's a good point, John. It's a very good point.
Yeah.
Quick question, Doug, when was that? What time was that meeting? On the 7th?
2 p.m.
2.
But Mike, I think that's Deb and John and myself.
Oh, I know. I just wanted to.
But you're welcome to attend if you're welcome.
I'll just sit in on it.
Okay. As long as we don't have, as long as we don't have.
I can't vote or anything. It's not
Well,
me.
as long as we don't have a quorum, so I think that might put us over the limit. Joanne will be there and Deb
Oh,
and
okay, well,
myself. So
I'll skip the meeting. I can do that.
I'll,
I'm good at that, actually.
I'll have Joanne forward you the notes from the meeting.
That's great.
No, Mike, Mike, you can call me anytime after the meeting if I can help you out in some
Well,
way.
I'm just wondering how it's gonna, I just wanted to hear what was going on with it.
Okay,
I can wait.
all righty.
Okay. Anything else for water and sanitation? Seeing none. Deb, you got the second biggest report for the evening.
Okay. In your packet is a letter from PennDOT about traffic signal maintenance. The borough is responsible for maintenance of all traffic signals in our jurisdiction, regardless of the road ownership. So whether it's a borough road or a state road, we have to take care of the traffic signals. My question is, does Bellefonte currently have a traffic signal maintenance agreement? And if not, do we need to apply for one?
I believe we do. I think it's a per traffic light situation, and practically every light from like you're saying, from the day one it's been put in, before they even put it in, we sign our life away. We pass ordinances and sign agreements. So I'd be shocked if there isn't agreements already in place for every traffic light in the borough.
Okay, there's a note in this letter that says municipalities are encouraged to execute a traffic signal maintenance agreement covering all signals in the municipality as soon as possible to ensure timely permit issuance. So that's already covered.
Well, I don't know exactly what they mean. Of course, we maintain our own poles, and if it's something beyond our capacity, we have a contractor we use, and most everybody in our area uses the same contractor. They're specialized in traffic lights. Now, if we change a timing, that has to be approved by PennDOT.
Okay.
But maintenance-wise, it's either in-house or through a contractor.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Deb, when you're reading that, what I'm wondering is, do they want a consolidated agreement, or are they okay with individual ones for each traffic light? And that might need to be a question we should be asking PennDOT.
Yeah, I'm not sure from the wording of this notice.
I can check into that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, on our committee meeting on March 18th, the committee met with Pat McCool to discuss details for the Bellefonte cruise. The cruise committee has a detailed plan for spacing of exhibited vehicles and their owners, spacing of food vendors, and monitoring attendance to maintain social distancing guidelines. They will also have masks available for visitors who do not have one. I'd like to make a motion to conditionally approve the Bellefonte cruise to be held on June 18th and 19th, 2021, provided all COVID-19 guidelines that are in place at the time of the event are met, including event capacity, social distancing, and wearing of masks.
Okay, we have a second?
I'll second that.
Prendergast? Discussion?
I think the meeting went well with Mr. McCool. I think he's very aware of the guidelines that CDC has out. I'm still not clear. I'm in favor of this, but I'm still not clear how it will be enforced. So I'm assuming that he will have individuals from the cruise reminding people who may not be wearing masks to put them on. So I'm totally in favor of the cruise. I just had, and Mr. McCool was very cooperative and wanting to make this successful. It's a great thing for Bellefonte. Just maybe somebody here can remember how that mask ordinance will be enforced. Is it our police or?
Enforcement is an issue.
I think Mr. McCool said he's going to have volunteers.
Okay.
Helping with the mask ordinance, and also just kind of gently guiding people if the congregations get to be too too large, but I think this is a really good toe in the water kind of event at this point to see how we can accommodate a public event that typically draws quite a few participants. And everything is uncertain at this point. It could change next week. We don't know.
Yeah. He also said he was going to spread the cars out a bit to help with the social
Exactly.
distancing, which I think is going to be very helpful. So there will be fewer cars here this year because of that, but I think I'm hoping that it'll work out quite well. Melissa?
My only question was, shoot, what was it? What is the field that they're advertising to? Is it going, the last year that we had this was the biggest year that they had, and we're people who participate every year in it. So are they keeping it local? Is that their goal, to just have fewer cars?
Ralph, you were going to say something?
Well, I think Pat indicated they weren't going to go out as far as they normally do. But I don't know what all, what all different outlets they use.
Well, they're also very conscious of the number of participants they can have within a certain area. They're looking at the guidelines as far as outdoor events and attendance. So they're taking that into consideration, and I think they're reducing the number of exhibitors. Randy?
Okay.
So yeah, I'll just add in there that when Pat talked to us, that he has said,
Randy, put your microphone down to your mouth, Randy.
Yeah, if I'm not unmuted, I have it out of my face. So he relayed to us that he has several members of their group out and about at the same venues, looking at what's working for them, what's not working for them, and they're using that information. And what he mentioned to us was, when the cars are parked on the street, there'll be a 10-foot space between the people, because they'll be sitting on the driver's side of each car. So that's going to separate the people, at least wherever they're seated, a car and another person. So, but there's still about 10 feet taken up there, I believe. So they seem well prepared. I think they've done a lot of work trying to figure it out. And again, going out to other venues, I think has helped them in the design they put together for this year.
Thank you.
My only concern is any outdoor activity. We've already had 2 major cancellations in State College with the Arts Crafts Festival, and also Bollesburg canceled theirs. So it's something that we also need to keep an eye on, because when people get busy with a project, sometimes you forget to look at certain things. But I'm pretty sure this is a high item on their list.
Anything else? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? So moved.
The Streets Committee has attended 3 different sessions of the PSAB webinar on complete streets. And I'm going to turn this next section over to Mr. Brackbill, because he's done a lot of work on suggestions for possible amendments or slight tweaking of the crosswalks around the diamond.
Yeah, I'm not an expert, but for as far as the complete streets, if you not familiar with what they are, it's basically marrying traffic, auto traffic, walking traffic, bicycle traffic, all in the same street, and finding ways to marry those things together. And that's something that we are looking at for Bellefonte. And as far as the crosswalks, my drive there is trying to make things safer. And just like in the letter that was sent to us for tonight's meeting, is a discussion that we've had is, we can't, and I don't want to say police, but we can't control what the drivers are doing when they're driving through town, or what the pedestrian is doing while they're walking through town. But what we should be saying to them is the same thing that when we were kids: look look, look both ways before crossing a road. That's something that was driven into us. And you still have to do that as a pedestrian. Yes, the pedestrian has a right of way, but you still are responsible for yourself by looking in both directions before crossing and making sure nobody's coming. And you just can't step out because they may not be paying attention. And just make sure they see you before you take that first step. So that's one of the things we looked at. I put together a list of questions after our discussion at our meeting last week concerning what the goal of it would be. Basically, was that we're looking to do a study to improve the pedestrian crosswalks in the diamond area of the downtown. The streets involved in this study will be West and High Streets intersection with North and South Allegheny Streets. So the questions were, would PennDOT permitting be required to apply painted lines depicting a curb extension? Does PennDOT have a required distance between the curb extension and the sidewalk? Does PennDOT have a required color for line depicting the curb extension? So those are the three questions I came up with. White is the line color. The required distance between the curb extension and the sidewalk is what Mark, we had sent this, I think Ralph had sent this to Mark Hood, who we've been working with these recent weeks with the Panini.
Yes, Panini and Associates Engineering.
Yep. So we've been working with him quite often through this process. And basically the curb extensions are part of the sidewalk. And my only concern was drawing a line somewhere from one crosswalk to another and going around these turns, like you go corner of North Allegheny Street, turning west onto West High Street towards Spring Street. You have a pedestrian line on Allegheny and then a pedestrian crossing on High. And we want to bring a half, like a half circle or so, come around that turn to the right and take up a little bit of space from where those parking areas are, move a car away from the parking areas where they have to make a little bit wider turn that gives them a better visual of the lower crosswalk, as well as seeing somebody stepping off the curb to go across High Street. And then the same thing would apply for anybody coming up West High Street to turn south to go toward Bishop Street. Another long line would be drawn at that as well. And I think we are also able to put delineators on these lines. Mark has said that would be a more beneficial than just a line, because people will run over a line, but not necessarily a delineator. And that's just a flexible white plastic that just stands.
Flippy floppy thing.
Yeah. So he answered those questions. It kind of straightened me out on what I was trying to explain, but he got it. And he's suggesting we do both the lines and the delineators. We do need a permit with whatever we're doing because we don't qualify not to do a permit. So I think with that, Ralph, are we able to make a motion to send a request to PennDOT?
Yes. There's two ways, just to be clear.
Okay.
We can send a letter and wait for PennDOT to respond, or we could go the route of bringing on a consultant, an engineer that would help us prepare the letter and do some studies and, maybe have a better chance of when PennDOT reviews that to get a successful review. So it's up to council which way you would like to go.
And we can use monies from.
Yes, we can. Yeah, we talked about that in the committee meeting. Of course, we always ask, how are we going to pay for additional costs? The good answer, or the answer is we have what we call highway aid or liquid fuel funds that come from the state, and spending those funds on a consultant is an eligible expense.
So I would make a motion to do that, to bring on an engineer and do the work, so that, usually then PennDOT would go ahead and take a look at it and approve it, or whatever they need to do to, they have to send it back. I don't know.
I'll second your motion, Randy.
Okay, thanks.
For discussion.
Bragg, Bill, and Johnson. Thanks.
I have two things I'd like to offer. One is, I think it's a great idea to have this study done by an outside engineer. The question I have is, are we going to do a request for proposal, or are we going to give Ralph and Don, who are connected with other boroughs and townships, and allow them just to go out and seek an engineer to perform this task? I think one, it'll speed up the process if we allow our borough management to pursue this. So I'm in favor of having Ralph seek this person out. If he wants to bring it to the streets committee and say, here's who we selected, what do you think? I'm fine with that. But I'm sort of like Randy and others on the committee. We want to act on this as soon as possible. So RFP means advertising, what, for 2 weeks or something, Ralph?
At least, yeah, at least.
Yeah. So I don't know if I have to amend the motion or just include it. How I don't know how to include that.
We can include. I'll approve. I mean, you seconded it, and I think we could just add it into the motion.
I actually, Randy and Doug, I think we can just move ahead, and Ralph, based on his knowledge of what the state law says about RFPs or not, I think he could make that decision. Because I think there's some things we have to do by RFPs and others, and I think this is one of those that we don't have to do an RFP for. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Then I think then we're good to go.
Well, does that mean that, Randy, we don't have to vote on the motion, or?
We'd need to vote on the motion, but we don't need to amend the motion.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The other comment I had, and it's always a tough comment, and I'll direct it to the mayor because he's in charge of the police force. I really think we need to quickly address this. Let's have more police presence on the diamond or in the center of town. And Mayor, I know that's a tough one, but I mean, we're trying to nip this in the bud, and it's like anything else. If we put a lot of effort into this, people start getting the message. So, like Randy has described and others on council, they walk through town on a Friday night, crossing Allegheny Street, cars are zipping through town, and there's what appears to be no police support around between 5 and 9 p.m. And I may be wrong on that, but I'm asking council to support me in this suggestion that if the police aren't out on an emergency contact or, an aid or an investigation, walk downtown or park on the diamond or something. Even walking between Howard Street and Bishop Street once or twice in the evening to let pedestrians and vehicle drivers see that presence might help out in this situation until we can get it resolved. I'm just asking that. I know we're stretched, but it's really part of their job. I mean, that's my other comment.
Okay, so Doug, I think that's a great comment, but it was out of order because of the motion that was on the floor. So
I'm with you. I sort of kept that I thought it would go with the motion, so I apologize. But I vote yes for the motion.
So let's do the motion, and then we can continue having this discussion. If Mike, is your comment on the motion?
No, my comment was just saying, I believe the letter that we got from the citizen complaining about the safety, Chief Weaver responded and said they were doing more police patrols there. So I think your position has already been semi-addressed anyway.
So that's also out of order. John?
Let's vote, then I'll speak.
Just so I understand, are we basically saying that instead of building a bump out on the sidewalk, you're going to try to paint it with you're going to indicate it with paint?
Randy can answer that.
I can, but we're getting out of order again. But no, this is a temporary situation that we're trying to create to do it quicker. But we're going to be working with our the planning commission to formalize more long-term solutions with the downtown streets and crosswalks and different things, trying to work the complete streets feeling back, into this. So that's going to take a little bit more time. By doing this, we might be able to have this done in 2, maybe 3 months. We go the other way, we could be 6 months just waiting, and then you're in winter, so now you're another 6 months waiting for the weather to change to get anything done. So we're trying to get something done sooner, so again, it's temporary, but it'll let people know, once everything gets approved, if we extend the curbs, that's going to create that narrower space that you have to slow down and take a wider turn.
So when we did Complete Streets webinar, this was one of the suggestions, is to do a temporary test of what would do to see if this improves some of the things for safety purposes, to make the complete street better for everybody. And so by doing this, by having the consultant come in and assisting us drafting this report to send to PennDOT, I think will help us get this moving along, just as Randy said, much faster than if we did it the other way around.
Right. I'm just, I think I'm still within order because we're talking about the motion of what the proposal is. So this would be, so we would be necking down the width of the lane on High Street.
On all of them, that whole intersection where you have, we have 5 intersections down there, where one street comes on to the center of Diamond, to the Diamond area. And so the only one that's not really affected is if you come down the downside of High Street and you're going to make a left turn, that nothing changes on that side. If you're going to make a right turn, it's going to be you're going to make a bigger turn to go around that.
Okay.
And I don't think, as Doug indicated, it may interfere with the parking, but it does not. The lines won't be any longer than the width of a parking stall.
Okay.
So it'll probably be less than that. We want to be able to get pedestrians to a space where there's a line drawn, and they kind of stop and look both ways and make sure it's safe to cross before they just step out.
Yeah, I'm all for what you're proposing. I was just making sure I understood how you were going to do it with the mechanics.
Yeah, I can send you my crude drawing if you didn't already see that.
No, I didn't see the drawing. I'd be interested in seeing the drawing.
Okay, I can send that out because I did do a revision, and I think the revision met some of the bullets that Mark had pointed out to us in his reply.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions, concerns about the motion?
All the motion.
Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to hire the consultant, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So moved.
Okay. Thank you, Randy.
Thank you.
I'd like to speak to Doug's comment and Mike's reiteration of what Jason reported, what's been written and emailed via Chief Weaver. The police department is trying its best with 2 people on board on shifts to cover the Diamond area and have more of a walking presence down there with observations and some traffic control. Perhaps if this is the issue that we want to target, would council be amenable to adding 3 police officers per shift? We could have someone down there all the time.
That's a budget issue.
Sure is, but we can't have 2 police officers covering everything at all times. So they're doing the best they can with 2 people on a shift. And sometimes there are priorities which will keep them from having a presence downtown. It's just the reality of the situation, but they're doing the best they can with what they got to work with.
Understood.
Thank you.
Any other comments on this? Deb, any more?
Oh, yeah. There is a note on the agenda, and this is for the public. There will be a public hearing on pedestrian safety scheduled for Monday, April 19th at 6:30 prior to the council meeting. Public input is crucial for this. We want to hear from everybody, the good, the bad, the ugly. Email us, attend the public hearing. We need community input on traffic safety for pedestrians and motorists so that we can all coexist peacefully. We've been not inundated, but there have been multiple emails every day from concerned citizens on both sides of the argument. The pedestrians are upset with the motorists are upset with the pedestrians. So we need input from everybody on this. And the link should be available for that. Ralph, would that be the day of the event?
Yes, please contact the borough and we'll send you the link prior to the meeting. We don't publish that for various reasons, so you need to contact the borough office, let them know you'd like to join the meeting. We can send you either a phone number or a link, and whichever suits you, we'll send it out to you.
Okay, and in the meantime, email us.
Would this be more suitable for a work session, Joanne?
A public hearing? No, this is for the public to speak to us, and it's during the work session time.
Okay.
It's an hour before the council meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. And the last thing I have is an update on the T2 mobile pay system. I think Don had some information about the contract update. There are some terms that are being renegotiated.
Working on those, Deborah, with T2. So the Terry from T2 did contact me today, left me a message. I have to get back to her. We've been playing phone tag. So we are still working on terms and conditions that the borough can agree to before we proceed with the touchless pay for the parking meters.
Okay, thank you. And that's all I have.
Okay. Anything else for streets at this point? Is that somebody? No, that's me. Okay, seeing none, Mike, Energy and Conservation.
Alrighty. The last meeting we had, a regular meeting in May.
In March.
I'm sorry. We were talking about spending $500 to join the ICLEE, and the question was posed where we were going to get the money from, and the answer came back from Lori that it was from. Oh, come on, give me a break here. I'm having the same problem you had, Joanne. What is that? Oh, I just had it up. That's not it. Anyway, it is budgeted. We've got a oh, here it is. According to Lori, it can be paid for out of the unemployment amount is the solvency fee they decided to pay. Yeah. So I assume that we have the money available. If I read that correctly.
Mike, I'll jump in here. Lori's recommendation to council is that, we made that commitment late last year that we knew this year was going to be a tight budget year. And therefore, if it wasn't budgeted, we weren't going to add anything to any department. So I think Lori's recommending that the $500 for ICLEI is not there at this time.
Oh, I misread that then.
That's the way I read it too.
There was a question raised at the last meeting about a donation. And, you know, we've had questions come up about donations, conflicts of interest. Without a legal opinion, I don't see any problem with donations because the way a conflict of interest works is there has to be somebody financially benefiting, somebody on council or a family member, and that's simply not the case. So, you know, for whoever asked about donations or what have you, that I don't see any problem with that if that were to be the case.
So the donation could be made, and then we could make the membership, and that would be just like we did with the Liberty Swing.
Yeah.
But that was not a council member that did that.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
So do we need a motion to join the membership with that contingent on that that donation?
I assume that would be the next motion. Yeah, I'll make that motion. If it's legal, we can do that.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Prendergast and Walker. Discussion?
So,
Yes, Randy.
Joanne,
Randy's hands up. Then you
Yeah,
can go, John.
is there a timeline for this? Since we're putting a critique to it, is there a timeline to when you won't be needing it? If you don't get the donation, does this thing continue to wait for the donation, or what happens?
Well, the donation would be made within the next couple of days, so I don't think that's an issue.
Okay, I don't know anything about the donation, so
Yeah,
that's why I'm asking.
yeah. So that wouldn't be an issue. John?
the people on the Climate Action Committee, they'll take it upon themselves to raise the money for this donation. I take it.
Yes.
They'll solicit the donation.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Donation's already been offered.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, Doug?
What expenses do we incur after we join this?
The expenses with ICLEI is that if we pay this $500 membership there, they will provide us services and a special program that they're starting in May to help us get a board or commission, whatever we're going to call it, off and running and help us get started. So because right now what we've been doing is spinning our wheels for the last 7 months trying to figure out how to get this board up and running. Mike, and the DEP is providing us background assistance as well. At this point, that's all I know. Mike?
If I remember correctly, it's not an ongoing process. It's just a one-time deal.
And then if we wanted to join again next year, we could, but then it would have to be in the budget and whatever. But right now, DEP is offering us a discounted membership to ICLEI to get these services for the borough.
Is that a prorated membership fee this year?
Yes, if we were a town of 1 million or more, it would be several $1,000s. Because we're a small borough, the regular fee is $600 and DEP is discounting it to $500.
Because we're joining late, I guess, in the year.
Nope, it's because they offered it to everybody who participated in the climate action plan in 2019.
So what happens next year?
We make a decision at that point. And
is this related to the climate action plan, the 58-page report I've been reading?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
This is to assist us to moving. Whether we need this service after that, I don't know. So that's why I can't answer your question. Yes, Randy.
Yeah, I just at this point, with the way things are, COVID's still with us. And I understand you get the grant, that's fine, but I am concerned, as Doug mentioned, what additional monies might need to come out of the budget that we don't have ready for that. And I don't know if we can work on donations to have people carry us through this thing. And I also think that this program, this plan that we have, we've only ever looked at it a couple times before it was approved. And again, there was no cost shown in that document as well, which was bothersome because you just don't know. And I think those are the things that we need to know. And our budget's so tight. I mean, it's about as tight as I've seen it, even since last year. And if you get a donation, great, but I just don't want to get tied into something that we can't afford, where if we're better off waiting to next year and hopefully things are firing back up and we have the monies to know that we can successfully continue this plan, I would feel more comfortable with it at that pace. And because I really think, we're being asked to approve a lot of things with this plan, but we've only discussed it enough to pass it. And I think it's more of a project than, there's a lot of work to be done, a lot of wheels that need to turn to be successful with it.
It pretty much, reading the report, it looked like a boilerplate document where you inserted Bellefonte, where any town or city could be inserted into the program or into the document.
Go ahead. Okay, Melissa. You need to unmute yourself.
I would think that it would probably take the rest of this year with guidance from ICLEI to form a board or an authority before we would even begin to think about spending money. That would be my understanding of the assistance that we're receiving from ICLEI. And it does, even though it does seem like boilerplate, a lot of work has gone into it. We've held a lot of meetings on that document. So I wouldn't, as a committee member for that report, I wouldn't want to wait a full year before we start getting something working because it's taken so long to get to the point that we're at.
I didn't see your name on the committee. I saw Joanne's, Ray, Don Holderman, Kay Dunn, somebody else.
I'm on an energy and environment.
Oh, well, I didn't, in the document, it doesn't list your name. It only lists Joanne.
I wasn't on that committee. I am on energy and environmental, and we've discussed it. We've discussed it multiple times in committee.
This is just to get guidance on the committee to get started. We aren't even talking about implementation yet.
Well, it might be good to let the residents of Bellefonte know what you're proposing in the next 5 years. And I can't remember if that document is on the website or not.
We're supposed to be.
It may very well be. I downloaded it and printed it. That's the way I have to read it. But it might be interesting for the residents to read and see what criteria they're going to have to adhere to in the next 5 years. If this document.
Well, part of the climate, I don't want to spend, I mean, it's almost 10 o'clock, so I don't want to spend all evening talking about it, but there is, part of that plan is to have community input. Because it's not going to work unless the community is on board for the things that they can do, as well as what we as the borough can do. This donation will allow us to help set up the board so we can start getting that community input. Do we have any other discussion on this? Seeing none, can we move to a vote? All in favor of working with DEP, getting the ICLEI contingent on this donation being received, please say aye.
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 All opposed?
No.
2 noes, Randy and Doug. Okay. Moving on.
Moving on, the only other things I have are some of the projects from the students at Penn State. got an update on what they're doing with the mill race on Spring Creek. It's basically they're still working on getting the flows down and some graphics to show how everything's supposed to work. The other thing is an air quality report, and it says it was in the same email, but I did not see that.
There was it was a separate email, but that was a confusing statement. I agree with you, Mike. What that is a motion that Iona, is that how you pronounce her name, is asking Bellefonte Borough to pass a motion to approve the installation of an air quality monitor on our borough for research purposes to look at what kind of greenhouse gas emissions are happening here in town. They're doing a state college. They want to compare it to Bellefonte.
I read the memo a little bit differently.
Okay.
I read it as that would be a fall project, and if we're interested, let them know. But I may have misread the memo.
I think Ralph's right. I remember that seeing that. I wasn't in the same email, and that's what I was confused about. But
so
I think Ralph had read it correctly.
So do we need a motion, or do we need just to tell her we're interested in it, or what?
If you're comfortable or by consensus putting that in as a possible fall project, we can just let Ilona know.
I think it's, I think on this one, we just have to let her know we're interested, and then just Professor Davis from Meteorology Department would install it whenever he can get around to it.
Okay.
Which I assume would be sooner rather than later.
Okay.
Yeah, that was sort of my interpretation as well.
Yeah, and I would be more than happy to have them come and put up their instruments and take all the data they want.
Yeah, the only thing was you needed to be able to provide them with internet connection.
I think it's access to it. I don't know if
access to it. And that was, and I read the letter as saying that there was also like a local resident that was interested in hosting one of those devices. That was also okay to them.
I agree, anywhere in Bellefonte, but if we're interested as a borough, we could do it here at the building, and we have access, we have power, so it's no bigger than a baseball.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. And,
in fact, if I could get them to put up several, I would have one put by my house.
That's what they're looking for, Michael.
Throw them all over the place. I'm good with that.
Maybe the recycle center.
Yeah, there you go.
So do we have a consensus to say, tell her yes?
I'd say yes.
Okay.
We'll take care of that.
Okay. Yes, John.
The one thing I wanted to add to Mike talking about the students working on the Talleyrand project, they said they completed their model with the dam removed. So they've completed that stream model for returning the stream back to the conditions prior to the sediment buildup, from what they can best piece together from what they think the old maps were. So I'm actually quite excited to see what the kids come up with, or the students, I'm sorry, what the students come up with at the end of the project.
Okay. So there's another meeting they're holding this Thursday.
Yes.
This time I'll try to get the times right.
And I think we have one more meeting after that, and then there's going to be the formal presentation. I think what we could ask on Wednesday is this formal presentation. Are they going to do it before council or what? Because it'd be nice for to have it on CNET when they do that presentation.
It would. And we also have to get with Alona for phases 2 and 3.
Yeah.
What the follow-on phases for the program. So I'd be very interested in the program continuing.
I totally agree. Okay,
That's all
moving,
I have.
moving on. Office of Community Affairs.
Let me go down this real quick. Let's take care of the easy one. In the work session this evening, we talked about a draft of the short-term rental ordinance. I believe I would ask council to consider referring the ordinance draft to our borough solicitor for his review and comments, and then have it come back to council.
Could I have a motion to that effect?
I'll make
John?
the motion.
I'll second it.
Eaton and Pendergast? Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So moved.
Okay, moving into Harb, this is going to be a little tricky. There's 3 projects. And the memo is a little bit different than the agenda. So let me go over the agenda. 218 North Spring Street is a retroactive approval. Council did approve, and there was a footnote condition that has been reviewed by Gina, our new Harb administrator. And as noted in her report, there's no issue. You know, it can be approved. She checked that part out.
Okay, so I need a motion to retroactively approve the porch repair and renovations to 218 North Spring Street.
I have to abstain from this one.
I'll make the
Oh.
motion.
I'll second.
it. Okay.
Clayton, and I think I heard Brackbill. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved.
Okay, the next one is a little tricky. It's the address is according to the agenda, 221 North Allegheny Street. There's several parts of the project that were reviewed. Let me look here at the notes and I'll break it down. Replace the carriage house and main house roof with black asphalt shingles. That's okay, being recommended for approval. Paint the exterior brick of the carriage house. That part is okay. The carriage house is already or currently painted.
It's not brick, that's why.
Well, yeah, it's not brick, it's some kind of masonry, but it is already painted. And I'm emphasizing that for a
Yes.
reason.
Yeah.
Now, here's the tricky part. The main house was proposed to have paint put on the brick. It was stated in the Harb meeting by mistake that the house is currently painted brick or has painted brick. And we found out later that that was a mistake. And consequently, well, you know, when the mistake went, well, in the meeting, again, Harb generally allows painted brick to be repainted, but does not allow new or brick that is not painted to be painted. It has to do with the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation, which are national standards they follow. Make a long story short, they made an error in their recommendation. The recommendation was to allow the brick to be painted because they thought it was already painted. And as I stated, that was a mistake. So what I'm recommending, what I've seen councils do in the past, is when something has come to council, whether it's by mistake or someone's appealing a Harb decision, council often sends it back to Harb for review again and try to get it straightened out at the Harb level. And then it comes back to council. So that was how I would resolve this. I would recommend you as council send this back to Harb to look at it again, knowing that the brick is not painted, and see what their recommendation is and how it comes back to council.
Do I have such a motion?
I'll make that motion, Brackbill.
I'll second it, Prendergast.
Brackbill and Prendergast. Discussion?
So Ralph, was there an on-site visit to determine that the house had or had not been painted before?
It was mistakenly stated by a HARB member who has some authority in expertise. It was just a pure mistake, a mistake that it looks like painted brick, but it wasn't. I'm just telling you what happened, Randy.
I'm just asking if anybody went there and looked at it.
Gina went after the meeting. She went out there afterwards, but not before the meeting.
Gina was practically brand new. HARB members, even one that lives across the street, questioned whether it was painted or not. And it was stated very clearly it was painted. And no, I mean, it was just one of those things, a spare of the moment thing. It looked like it was painted and we didn't check it at the meeting.
It's just a yellow brick.
It's a yellow brick.
It's yellow brick from Clearfield County. It's one of the few houses in town with that brick, and it's a relatively rare here in town.
Yeah, I remember reading the memo from HARB when Walt Schneider was going on about Clearfield brick on this house. So that was like 2 years ago. So, okay.
Well, the house was, flipped, I call it.
Right.
And these new owners are doing more work to it. They bought the house and they wanted to paint the brick.
They're a charming couple.
I'll call a question.
That's where I was headed.
Yeah.
All in favor of referring this back to HARB for further review? Please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved.
Now, to clarify, these other items we're okay with, recommended for approval. The black shingle roof, the painting of the carriage house, and then one that I think I didn't mention, installation of a wooden fence along the rear property line with sealed treatment, wood treatment. You're okay with all that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So we need a motion to accept the rest of their proposal, which would be replacing the roof shingles, the putting in the wooden fence, and painting the carriage house.
I'll make that motion.
Prendergast?
Since I have to look at it.
Prendergast, and who's going to second?
Eaton.
Okay. Discussion? Seeing
Is
none,
this
all. Go ahead.
Sorry, is this a shingle roof or is this a standing seam metal roof?
It was supposed to have been a standing seam roof. They found out the cost, and when they actually got into the HARB meeting, they switched it to an asphalt.
That's
Okay.
exactly what happened.
All right.
So, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? So moved.
Okay, the next one's somewhat tricky also. It's at 428 North Spring Street. The part that's denied is the installation of a white vinyl fence along the side of the property. There's multiple pieces of the project. The pieces that were approved, recommended for approval, is approve the gutters replaced in kind with half-round metal gutters with round or rosette downspouts to match the soffit and fascia color. So the vinyl fence is a no. The gutters and downspout, as long as they're half-round, and the color matches the soffit and fascia, they're recommending approval for that.
Yeah, true half rounds.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion? Can we do this all at once?
Yes.
Okay. Can I motion to approve the gutters replaced in kind with the true half-round metal gutters with the round rosette downspouts, and disapprove the installation of the vinyl fence alongside of the property?
Make that motion again.
Do you have a second?
I'll second it, Clayton.
Okay, discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, all opposed? So moved.
I think that's all we have this evening under Office of Community Affairs.
Okay.
Oh, no, wait, we got like 70 more pages here.
You can go through them one by one if you want.
I quit.
Okay, special committee reports.
I guess I'll go first. Huh? So you'll see the Nittany Valley Ad Hoc Fire Chiefs and Fire Chiefs. We're having a fire study introduction meeting scheduled for April 6th at 7 p.m. tomorrow evening. And that's looking basically getting it's the start up of this study that we're going to be doing throughout the Nittany Valley and the fire departments. And then after that, the COG Public Safety Committee meeting is scheduled to be held next Tuesday, April 13th, unless it gets canceled due to agenda items, which happened at the last meeting.
Okay.
And that's all I have for special committees.
Questions for Randy? Just out of curiosity, what is this fire study?
It's looking at how the fire stations in the Nittany Valley can work together, either using manpower, using equipment, who should purchase what type of equipment, things like that. More of a, not a regionalization of it, but it's kind of what they're calling it coming from the DEC. So that, because they're the ones who are putting this program together for us. So that's really what it's about, figuring out, monies, and when you purchase items, if you can purchase more in a group, it costs less money, things like that. So.
Okay.
Better coordination. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, because I mean, as far as Bellefonte goes, at our last meetings, I've heard there's probably 2 to 3 apparatuses that have hit the 21-year mark, 21 years old. So.
Okay.
Sounds like you have a good maintenance program.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the mileage, but 21 years is a long time.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay. Any other questions for Andy? Okay, Doug, you want to do the airport authority meeting?
Not much to report. We did approve the new bylaws, and we're moving forward, putting some bids out for the equipment building that we're considering building. What am I missing, Ralph? My backup man here.
Well, that's the building's the main thing that the authority's been working on, and Doug's committee. It's interesting. I mean, they're really a kind of a small organization, but doing some of the things we do, put salt on the roadways and parking lots and whatnot. So it's interesting seeing things unfold.
Employments are still down, and we're hoping to see that come back. Parking is down, just like all over the nation. We do see some hints of increasing travel, but it's still very slow yet. That's all I have right now.
Okay, thank you. Ralph, yours should be a 1-sentence report.
Yeah, just I'll have a written report at the next meeting.
1 sentence, good. Old business.
Old business, we do have a draft, and I believe Mr. Brooks is on with us. There's a sidewalk ordinance amendment. Our intent was not a complete rewrite. It was something to get us going, get us moving forward. As you may have seen, we give people 120 days from the point they get the notice to make the repair. So if we start rather soon, they'd have most of the summer to get a contractor lined up and have the work done, and have us check the work and all that before the end of the season. So it is a timing issue. I know it's probably not perfect, but I'm hoping you'll allow us to get started and move this project forward. As you heard, we didn't do anything last year, maybe even the year before. So I think it's something we need to get busy on.
I'd like to refer this to the Streets Committee for review. When I looked over it this afternoon, There seems to be a conflict in a couple of sections of the ordinance where choices for types of sidewalks are allowed in one section, but completely limited. And I think it could be an easy fix. So I'd like to refer to Streets to have them look it over real quickly. Okay.
We can do that.
Okay.
Next item, I think at the last council meeting, there was questions and discussion about our goals and that were identified for 2021. So I went back and found that list. It's there for your review. I did take a quick look at it. I think we're following it pretty closely, but we certainly could. I think when COVID's over, when we feel comfortable, we're planning some kind of a retreat or a little like extended time to review goals, maybe like a 1 year and a 3 year and a 5 year or something, but definitely on the radar to do that.
Could we put that on the website and on the Facebook page just so the public can see it? Because I think it's good information.
Yes, we can do that, sure.
Ralph, I don't know if I saw the 2020 goals as well, and I don't know if those got posted or not, but I think it's good to show the things we did in the year that didn't happen.
I can do that. They were in both in one PDF, so that's why I included them. But yes, I'll put them there too.
Okay.
And the last item under old business, on-street parking, permit parking concerns, discussions with the courthouse. Dawn and I did meet with Margaret the other day, probably about a week and a half or so now, and discussed, still, as we mentioned, the parking issues around the courthouse. And nothing was decided. The direction that it sounded like they were interested in going in is having dedicated spaces in our municipal lots, similar to the barber shop on West High Street did in the street, then I guess it'd be the west lot, where the applicant would pay a flat amount for the space on a monthly basis and pay for the signage and that kind of thing. So, but again, there is going to be some discussions on Margaret's end with the commissioners, with the department people, and then we wanted you to be up to date on where we're at as well. So I would anticipate sometime soon we'll have another discussion and then be back in touch with everybody.
Ralph, was there any discussion as far as their gravel parking and adding? At one point they were going to pave it. I think maybe it was 19 or maybe into 20, and things happen. But paving those areas may gain them a couple spaces. Whether it's worth the cost, I don't know, but I know they had talked about paving those.
I think one of them, I think they did put some pavement down. We didn't talk about that. We talked about, the number of spaces on the street that were what we call the red meters, now the permitted area. And they seem to have a deficit. They are, on top of this, of course, Centercrest is now an empty building. They talked about moving some offices there. They talked about maybe a shared project and rebuilding the sidewalk along the cemetery, because right pretty much straight back from the cemetery is the Centercrest. So they could have maybe a pedestrian corridor between the Centercrest property in the back of the courthouse. So it's just too early to say which direction they're going in, but they were very appreciative of Borough Council, working with them and giving them time to figure out some solutions.
Any other questions? Any other old business? Let's move on to new business.
New business, if I just quickly mention, we have here the resolution 0405 2021-01 supporting local police use of radar.
Do we have a motion to accept this resolution?
I'll make the motion.
I think that was Eden and then Prendergast.
That'll work.
Discussion?
Long time coming.
Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So moved.
Okay. Next item, the Bellefonte Waterfront Development Status Report. Basically, we had received an email asking about the RCAP grants and the borough, because the borough's name's involved in it, because they typically run through a municipality, that we would send a letter agreeing or asking for an extension. And, you know, at first we really wanted to get more detail on, you know, the basis for the decision to extend and what more of a status report of what they were working on and why it's, you know, why it's kind of at a standstill. Of course, we're aware there's COVID issues and what the industry is going through, but nevertheless, you know, we have a concern that there isn't any development over there. So we did delve into it, and even though this document doesn't have dates, which maybe at some point in the future we could have the developers come in and talk about dates. The real reason behind the RCAP extension is they have 2 RCAP grants, one through kind of the representative's office, one through the senator's office. And the plan is to combine those 2 grants into one. And in order to do that, they need some more time. But at the end of the day, it's more efficient and effective of a process if they do that.
Okay, need to have a motion to approve the extension for the RCAP application.
I'll make that motion. After last year, I think they deserve it.
I'll second Brackbill.
Prendergast and Brackbill, okay. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So moved. I do have one thing to add, which I waited until after the motion was done because it wasn't apropos to the motion. When I looked over their report, it looks like their use and design of the garage and hotel are changing. So they need to be notified that both of these projects will need to go back to the Planning Commission and to HARB for further review once they have a better idea what they'll actually be doing.
Yes, we've had verbal discussions. They're aware of that. I don't think they have those designs finished, but as we mentioned a couple of times, you know, updates that we've received, they want to add condominiums, you know, to the parking garage space, as you mentioned, Joanne. And then the hotel would be more like 40 rooms instead of 80 rooms. And then have 40 rooms that are in essence condominium rooms that somebody owns, but could be rented out through the hotel administration or whatever. So that's the concept. Other hotels do this concept, and that's what they've been working on looking at. But we don't have any renderings or anything, but yes, they'll have to go back through HARB and maybe planning. We'll have to, at the footprint, we'll have to look at the footprint and those kinds of things to see how that changes.
Okay, is there anything else in new business? Is there any public comment? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Yes.
Brackbill and Prendergast, and it is 10:15 p.m.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
One and all.